Mike.
Mike.
Good afternoon. I'd like to bring back the city council meeting. Roll call, please.
Ulisich,
Present.
Kaufman Gomez,
Present.
Dutra,
Here.
Garcia, Hernandez, Hurst,
Here.
Rios.
Here. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to just bring to the attention that if you need translation, we have our translation equipment to the side, and our interpreter is there. If cualquiera si quiere usar los audífonos para interpretación, ahí están, por favor los pueden agarrar y tomarlos, y pues nuestro intérprete está ahí para que ustedes hablen en el lenguaje que se sienten más confortable. So you can speak it whatever language you feel more comfortable. They're right there. Thank you very much. Any report from closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. There was a report from staff on the one item on closed session this evening, but no final action taken.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the time for presentations and oral communications. We're going to start from oral communications from the public. Please tell us, give us your name, and you have 3 minutes. There is a time clock there, and just if you can pay attention to the clock, we appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Christine McGrath, and I have been employed by the City of Watsonville for over 25 years. I work in the Finance Department on accounts payable. Many things have changed over the past 25 years. A new civic center, a new logo, twinkle lights on Main Street, a small vegetable garden at the MSC with fresh mint. But many things, unfortunately, have not changed. As soon as I started working for the City of Watsonville, the clerical technical group decided that it took a vote to join the union. I asked fellow workers if I should vote yes, and they all said they advised me to do so. The thing that has not changed over the past 25 years is the way the clerical technical group is treated. Management resented our group joining the union, and that has not changed. Our group is compromised of the men and women who contribute immensely to the everyday operations of the city. As generally the lowest paid group in the city, we all still have our families to support, bills and mortgages to pay, which was extremely difficult during the long furlough years. Many are still trying to catch up. It appears to be a fact that all employees are not competing on an even playing field. I have observed, and it appears that the closer a person works to top management, it is most likely that promotions can be made that are intended to go unnoticed. A secretary can become an administrative analyst and jump from the confidential group to management, and it is very likely that that person does not manage anyone. The ratio of managers to workers is unprecedented. In my department, we have been expected to do more work with less manpower. At one of our first meetings with the new management, we were told that the furlough went on far too long and that the city was very stable financially. When it comes time for negotiations, things suddenly change. I am only here to ask on my behalf and the rest of our membership to be treated fairly with respect for what we have contributed to the City of Watsonville and for what we will continue to contribute. I have seen council members on television and in the press marching and supporting the employees of the local hospital and on behalf of teachers. Please stand by us and support our effort to receive a fair and equitable contract. Thank you. I would also like to thank my fellow city employees, family, and friends who came here to support us, especially Mimi and Sandy and Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Good evening, members. My name is Donald N. Norm Hagan, for those of you who don't know me. I've lived here since '66, had the joy of teaching at Watsonville High in Aptos. I'm here, though, because of another situation. I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Metro system. I'm also on a commissioner on the RTC, and that's what I'm here to advise you of and to request your help in contacting the staff and members of the RTC to accept what they originally planned on in the rail trail system, which I voted for as an RTC member. The recent thing that I have in our latest agenda was something that came out of the blue, and that is Phase 1 and Phase 2 are fine, they've been set up and they're in motion. Well, Phase 3, unspoken, as Mr. Dutra knows, we've paid money and we've got the money for it, but it is being ignored by the staff on the RTC. Instead, they're looking to go north on the North Coast section as the next place to invest all the pertinent information and direction. That is beyond my acceptance and comprehension. There's a lot of things I have voted for, especially fervently, like the rail trail system, because I envisioned from Santa Cruz to Monterey a beautiful place where we could all go either on a light rail, on a path of walking, a bicycle, or even me in my wheelchair, which is my means of transportation. And I ask you to advise these men and women on the RTC to go back to the original point of bringing the rail system down to Watsonville, not ignoring that aspect of it. We have a lot of money invested as the city and the people who live here, but it is, like many things, somewhat of an afterthought to the administration in North County. Thank you for your efforts, and I appreciate any support you can give for the South County. And by the way, I moved here because I loved the city of Watsonville. I've lived here all but 6 years when I lived in La Selva Beach, and I cherish every moment of it. In fact, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society 2 years ago did a study, and they provided information that pointed mid-county, mid-bay in Monterey County and Santa Cruz County, the Bay of Monterey, is the most prime place, other than a little place in Italy, to live if you have MS. The fewest days over 85 and the fewest under 45. I got lucky with that one. And let's keep up our luck and keep the vision of the rail trail system alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Olivia Martinez. I am the SEIU staff representative. I was going to start differently, but I was kind of disappointed that Mr. Montoya was not paying attention while my member here was talking and gave such a beautiful speech. But moving forward, entering this year's negotiations, SEIU 521 members and leaders are more focused than ever on our community needs. We share our principles with you, and we ask that for your assistance to put community first. Commitment and permanency is one of our principles. 39% of our SEIU members have been working for the city between 1 and 7 years. 61% of our members have been working between 8 and 33 years here. Maintaining quality jobs benefits workers, families, and the local economy. The city of Watsonville must make a pathway to restore good wages and affordable benefits for all workers that are in our community, for our community to thrive again. Since 2009 to 2016, the cost of living increases based on the San Francisco-Oakland Index has totaled 18%. SEIU members in 2009 received a 1.8%. Since 2008, our members have not received anything. And in 2015, they received a 1.8% one-time payment. And in 2016, again, a 1.8 one-time payment. For these negotiations, we asked the city to do a salary study. And out of the 10 classifications, it's unbelievable that our members are out of market between negative 4.7% to 34.2%, and I have copies of the results here. This is a study that the city made, and they chose the cities that were going to be studied. And these, our members within our negotiating team are below market value. It's time for the equality for our members. 95% of our members work and live in Watsonville. And during the economic recession, our members took a 10% cut. Our members understood the need to sacrifice for the community. However, even in the economic recovery, the financial discrepancy continues. The city claims they don't have the money to make SEIU members whole. However, in 2016 and 2017, there were a total of 45 reclassifications and 25 promotions. The city currently has 379 employees, and of those, 121 mid-management and management positions. This represents a 32% of the city's employees are management. This means that for every 3 employees, you have 1 management position. How do you justify that? For SEIU members with an average salary of $40,000 a year, they are currently paying $4,700 per year in health insurance. That's 12% of their salary. Management has sent a message to our members that they are not a priority. If the city doesn't have money, then why rebrand the city logo? Why rebrand the website? Why rebrand your cars and everything if you don't have money? If you don't have money, you save and you think about how you're going to invest on your workers. We have a clear message over the years that SEIU members are not valued and we are not a priority. And this year, our members are ready to tell everyone that we will be made the priority this year. And we ask for your leadership and support because these facts are true and it's not fair for our members. So I thank you for listening to us tonight. I don't know if I can give this
Thank
to
you.
anybody
Yes,
that
right
you can
here.
give. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Laura Magaña from 1954 Freedom Boulevard. I would like to start, first of all, saying thank you for coming to our community and helping us clean it up. Because of you, we have seen a reduction in the homeless and the crime situation that we were going through. Recently, last Saturday, the same home that you guys helped us clean up, we're assuming was set on fire or lit on fire or just started on fire, and was pretty scary for all of our community. Back there is part of our neighbors from Freedom Mobile Home Park, and after Watsonville Fire Department came out, which their response was very quick, and I want to say thank you to them as well. We realized that we are not well prepared in case of something bigger that may happen, and we wanted to ask the City Council for help. If there's any resources that you guys can bring to our community for an evacuation plan, we just realized we're not prepared if something major were to happen in that neighborhood. The other thing we would like to ask the City Council is if there's any way that you can look into either having the owner of the park restore those condemned buildings that have been used for so many years for crime, prostitution, you name it, it's happened there. That the city could come in and either have him restore it or demolish it, but we would get something done quick because definitely those structures are very unsafe, and we're looking for any solution that could help our community and continue to better it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to speak in Spanish because my English is not pretty good, but I'm going to try to say something, right? My name is Miguel Chavez Andrade, and I live in Freedom Mobile Home Park. And then I want to say thank you very much for the fire department, guys. They go too quickly to stop the fire because in case the guys don't go, like 9 trucks on the fire department, go exactly you have and finish all the stuff right away. And then I want to say thank you to the guys and the community too, because, in case this fire se hubiera prolongado mucho, demasiado, y teníamos problemas nosotros los que vivimos en Freedom Mobile Home, mis compañeros, mis neighbors, ellos se dan cuenta bien de todo, y pues tratamos a ver si ustedes de una manera u otra puedan ayudarnos a solucionar la cosa, porque estamos en peligro. Gracias a ellos no se dio otra cosa más grande, familias, niños, y hubiera sido peor, pero gracias a ellos, a la actuación de ellos, aquí estamos.
Gracias, amigo.
Gracias.
My name is Miguel Chavez Andrade. I live at the Freedom Mobile Home Park. I want to thank you all for all of your assistance. I wanted to thank, so he started in English and then he moved forward, and so I want to summarize the end of his message, what he said in Spanish. I want to thank all the people here that live at the mobile home park, and I want to especially thank the fire department for coming and assisting us in a time of need. If they hadn't shown up when we had that fire, many people, many families, children were in great danger. And so I want to thank you all. I want to thank you specifically for helping us, for coming to our community, and we want to thank you in advance for whatever support you can give us so we can bring other resources to our community. And thanks to them, we didn't see any major harm. It could have been a lot worse. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, council members. Thank you very much for meeting with us tonight. And my name is Christopher Gill. I work at Wattsville Community Hospital. I'm a surgical scrub technologist. And you guys came out to support us for our strike a little while back. I came to give you a little bit of an update of what's been going on. We had a negotiation scheduled last Friday, and the hospital wanted to cancel and then refused to come to the table. So we're going out of strike again tomorrow, and it'll be going for 3 days. And from what I'm hearing around here, this is an epidemic in the community as far as pay and as far as health care. And, you know, this community is an amazing community, and I don't think I have to tell anybody here that. This whole community needs help, and they need to be elevated. They are deserving of everything that the surrounding communities have, and the ability to raise their children and the ability to support each other. So in closing, I just want to say thank you for your support for us, and any support that we can give, please let us know, because we'll be there. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Christopher.
Hi, my name is Emilia Pena. I work at Watsonville Community Hospital as well. I want to thank each and every one of you that was there last strike. I thank you for being there. And he was giving up the update. However, when we did go in negotiation, there was just no movement at all. And that to me is very discouraged, you know. I feel as if, why is this taking for us forever to get a contract? And to me, I find it very disturbing. You know, I work in food service department. I've been there for the period of 28 years. And I've never complained or whined about my job. But I actually do 3 people job in one position. And it makes it very difficult. But I am so grateful to the Lord, because He's given me so much strength, and He's given me so much abilities that I'm able to do that type of work. So I feel like a lot of the employees do. Every employee is overworked, and yet they don't think we deserve anything. And that to me is disappointment, because I feel that we are so short staffed in the hospital as it is, but we all come together because patient comes first, and that's how we see it. It's about the patients. It's not just about us. It's about the patients as well. And this is one of the reasons we're out there, you know. But we're going to give it one more try, you know, see what can be accomplished. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you guys that's giving us all the support in the community. And I hear a lot today with all this community, and I'm grateful that we are a small community, and when things happen, we kind of united, and that to me is something I really appreciate it, you know. Everyone, you know, you could be upset with your neighbor, it doesn't matter. When something bad happens, we all fall together. And the same thing goes in the hospital. We as family at a hospital as well as in a home. And that to me is probably why I continue working at the hospital, because I love working there and I love helping up whatever I could do, you know. But like I said, we are very short-staffed, and I just think we're a little bit exhausted. However, you know, we love working at the hospital, we enjoy ourselves, and we're there for the patients. So I just want to say thank you for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Peña.
Good evening, Councilman. My name is Johnny Abundes, and I'm here on behalf of two local business owners. Love and respect this community, and they have two letters that they wanted me to read out loud. So I'll take the first time for the first gentleman and the second one for the second. This is something that they tried to come with the ordinance code enforcement department. Things couldn't get rectified there, so they've asked this letter to be read in public, for public record. My name is Alfredo Garcia. I am the owner of Watsonville Diesel Service located at 101 Aviation Way, Watsonville, California, 95076. On May 3rd, 2017, at approximately 8:45 a.m., I went to the City of Watsonville Building Department trying to schedule an inspection for the foundation. Eric Simonson and Jose asked me to go with them into Eric Simonson's office. Eric was very mad and upset and started threatening me. Eric said, if you are calling Manny, who's another employee there, directly, you're going to be in trouble. We're going to fire Manny. You must stop calling Manny because we will stop helping you with finishing your project. You're not following the right direction, so we are not going to help you. Anytime you need something, you need to come to the city and stop calling Manny. If you're calling Manny again, you will both be in trouble. Eric was really upset and angry towards me. He was rude and disrespectful towards me. I would assume that he is a professional, being in a building of official, but instead he is threatening me and not providing me with the right information or direction and is unwilling to assist me to get the necessary things done and move forward with my project. When Eric was done speaking, I asked him if he was finished, and it was my turn to speak, and let me talk. I told Eric the following: I am a diesel technician, not a construction guy. My general contractor is out of town, and his foreman called me and asked me to contact the city to schedule an inspection for the rebar of the foundation. I am not familiar with construction words talk. Eric interrupted and told me that I needed to have a change of order. I don't know what a change of order is. He continued to be rude and angry towards me. Then he told me to expletive you. We are not going to help you anymore. He said to leave my paperwork and talk to your general contractor, and he will see you when he can help you me proceed with your inspection. After this incident occurred, I contacted the city manager, Charles Montoya. I told Charles what happened in my interaction with Eric Simonson and Jose. As of today, I have not had any response from the city of Watsonville. I am very upset with how the city has handled the situation and how the city has treated me. I am losing a lot of money because I have to rent another yard to accommodate my customers while my shop is being constructed, and every delay costs me thousands and thousands of dollars. It has been over a month, and I have not heard from the city. I do not appreciate the way Eric Simonson spoke to me.
You can finish.
Okay. It was unprofessional and out of line. I'm a business owner who brings revenue to the city, and it is not okay the city officials are treating us this way. I would think someone holding the position of building official, an assistant director, would be expected to treat us with respect and not tell us to expletive you and say we are not going to help you. I am expecting a response to see progress on my project. If necessary, I will have my lawyer contact the city to discuss.
Thank you. You can leave the letter if you have a copy for, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll read the second one.
No, only one letter. You have 3 minutes. You can leave the other letter here too, okay? And we will respond.
Oh, okay. I'm reading for a second, gentleman.
You can leave the letter here, please, okay? We'll give it, everybody gets 3 minutes, and and we gave you that and more. So you can leave your letter here, please.
It wasn't for me, it was for another.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Brad Blatchley with the Parks and Community Services Department. And it's my privilege to share with you that Paz Padilla has been chosen to be the Grand Marshal of the Spirit of Watsonville 4th of July Parade. The Grand Marshal receives the honor of being the one to lead the parade, and it's in recognition of the work that community members provide making Watsonville a better place to live. And Ms. Padilla has certainly lived up to that, both in her career and as a member of several boards, nonprofit boards that work to improve the lives of children and immigrants. So we are pleased to recognize her as the Grand Marshal. Just want to also remind folks, the parade begins at 1 o'clock, not 2 o'clock this year, but an hour earlier at 1 o'clock. The registration deadline is June 23rd for anybody who would still like to enter the parade. And as always, we can welcome any volunteers who might help us put on the parade this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Lucy Karina Murillo. I'm a homeowner, city worker, a mother, and I'm here because I'm part of the negotiation team. This year, I was part of the negotiation team for SEIU for the technical workers back in 2009, when the furlough started. Back in those days, we were told by management that we needed to go into furloughs, work the 36 hours, and take a 10% cut. We did it. We did it because we love this city, because we didn't want the city of Watsonville to be bankrupt, like Vallejo. We went every year back to negotiations, and the same thing was told to us, that there was no money. However, management got their increases. We didn't. This year, we're here, united, because we're tired. We're fed up. We gave enough. And it's time for you guys to stick with your workers, for the ones that are doing they're taking the payments, helping you with the loans, helping you in the streets. It's that time. It's hard for us to believe that there is no money when some people in the city has gone increases. It's hard to believe. So now we're here to ask you to look at your budget and find money for us. And don't threaten us with pink slips like it happened before. Don't use that, because then this room will be full, and the room next to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sunny Yassin from Salinas Auto Sales. I'm here. I'm a slow reader. I'm going to read as much as I can in the 3 minutes. So I, Sunny Yassin, the owner of Salinas Auto Sales, located on 1300 Freedom Boulevard in Watsonville, California. On the beginning of January, we moved to this city after the hassle we went through to get our permit, license, and then pavement, painting, remodeling of the building. We finally got to open after working on this building since September 2016 to January 2017. We started of the year good, moving lots of cars, selling as many cars as we were able to, given opportunity to the most of the community that walked into our location. It's our previous by seeing our license plates all over the city of Watsonville. As the month passed by, everything was perfect until we started getting citations and complaints by Cynthia Pintor, a worker of the city of Watsonville. Ms. Pintor had told us before that we are moving a lot of cars, and after that, the tickets and complaints started. She came into this office with observed attitude, claiming people were complaining about the business, parking outside on the street, our lights and our signs, while the city okayed all requirements of today. We personally feel like we were being harassed by Ms. Pintor because of a personal interest, and of the reason because she bought a vehicle from our past landlord, which we currently have issues with due to invite and other family reasons. We should not use against us, please other people and get what she needs out of the whole citations. He has been coming to our office, behaving in chatting rude manner, calling us all over the phones and hanging up on us, not giving us permission to speak, interrupting our speech, use when we are talking, and telling us where we missing up and sidewalks that the city built. Yes, we have done a few things that...
You can finish.
We have done a few things that are wrong, and we apologize for everything we did that's not up to the code, but also we would like to get treated as equal as the rest of the dealers.
Thank you. You can give us your letter, please.
Marilyn Garrett, retired school teacher from this district, and taught at Amesty and Calabasas schools, retired in 2000. And my top priority has always been with the children or anywhere that we need to have a safe and healthy learning, working, living environment. And today I want to bring to your attention endangerment by more of this microwave radiation. And I just think this is so instructive. This is a detector of microwave radiation that detects the totality of cell phones, antennas, etc. There's the sound component. This is not natural in nature. It's harmful to all life. And the World Health Organization categorizes this type of radiation as a possible cancer causer in the same category as lead and DDT. Well, the city council took a stand trying to stop a cell tower that emits radiation. People in neighborhoods around cell towers, there's increased cancer. People experience fatigue and heart palpitations and insomnia, etc. And Verizon sued the city. And that's going up. Now what they're doing, there's a bill in the state legislature, Assembly Bill 649, which is the telecom bill that gives them even more power to put the radiation emitting, they call them small cells, everywhere. Public right-of-way, what is called the vertical infrastructure of the cities and counties, utility poles, light standards, parks, all public buildings, more radiation than we're even getting now for 4 and 5G. Neighboring Monterey County sent in a letter in opposition to this bill, as did Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, along with the League of Cities and county governments opposing this bill. I urge you to oppose the bill. The contacts are on here. It goes before the Assembly. It looks like this week. It already passed out of the Senate. This will make it even more disastrous. The second and it's related to Assembly Bill 649, is AT&T plans to take out landlines, and that's all I have. I don't have a cell phone, cordless phone, computer, none of that. And in the bill, it said, we are changing the residential service agreement and plan to put new equipment on your premises, which requires electricity. If you do not allow the technician on your property, you will be disconnected. And this is supposed to happen by July 1st. We need to keep our landlines. They're the only things that work in a power outage. So I leave you with this, and anybody who else wants some of this information, I have more. Thank you for your consideration. I hope you take action on this.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Members, my name is Angelica Diaz. I work at the library department, and I've been a permanent employee since 1996. I'm very proud of it. And today I'm just here to emphasize what we asked of management today, and to ask you to please, help management to think outside the box, to find some money to, just bring us whole and keep our employees or keep my coworkers proud of, working for the city of Watsonville. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else, we'll bring it to council, and we start with Mr. Hernandez. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with Mr. Bilicich first.
Really? We're going to
Yes.
change the order
Yes.
today?
I will change the order.
Okay, well, I'll start with, first of all, we had the adult school graduation 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to thank Mayor Rios and Vice Mayor Hurst and Councilmember Hernandez for attending the ceremony. It was, the students really appreciated the fact that you were there, and, you shook their hands and took time to acknowledge them, and so thank you for attending that event. And I know there were a lot of other events going on, so it's difficult for everybody to get there. I also want to, we saw the Warriors win last night, and that was a great event, but more importantly, we have our own Watsonville High School softball team that, the Wildcats became state champions, first time ever. It's called history. Uh-oh, I sold. There we go. I mean, that's pretty amazing that Watsonville High School, here we are in Little Watsonville, and there they are, state champions. So congratulations to them. For those of you who remember, tomorrow is Flag Day, so I hope you put your flags out. And I think it's next Monday, June 19th, we have the Zone 7 Flood Board meeting right here. So if you're concerned about the levee, want to know what's happening, this is a meeting you should attend to see where the progress is. So the Zone 7 Flood Board meeting is right here next Monday at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gomez.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the community know that we are putting together our 150th anniversary. We're putting plans together. We're putting a master calendar of events that will be happening in the community to help with that celebration. We will be kicking things off in January, but before then, we're going to see a little bit happen here at our airport. We are going to have fireworks at the airport at 5 o'clock, between 5 and I think 9:30 on 4th of July. It's a free event for people to come out and to see the celebrations and to also take a look at what's going on at the airport. A lot of activity. I believe that there's also a movie for the children. Don't remember what the name of the movie was right now, but anyway, it's a fun event for Angry Birds, that's what it is. So plan on that after the parade. There's also a VIP area there so that they're doing a little bit of fundraising, and dinner's included with that admission. The Red Cross Hero Breakfast is also this Friday morning, and I know I have a Rotarian that's being honored for the service in the international arena. I'll be attending that, and that's a very honorable thing for what these heroes are doing for our community. That'll be held at Twin Lakes. And Aladdin Nursery, that's a company that's probably also going to be turning the century next year, and the Pajaro Valley Chamber of Commerce will be doing a mixer there this Thursday at their facility over on Freedom Boulevard. Farm Bureau dinner is going to be held next Thursday, and this is where they take the transition of their board for the new president, and they do celebration on that as well. I also want us to talk, I know that there's been issues at the federal level about the climate action and the Paris agreement, and I'd like us to actually talk as a community here to continue the support we're doing for the Climate Action Plan and what we've put together here to continue with that regardless of what the feds are saying about it. But I'd like to see us continue that. I think it would be positive for us. We're doing quite a bit. Monterey Bay Community Power will be instrumental in really pushing us forward with the greenhouse gas emissions and bringing that reduction down and continuing with the goals that we have for our Climate Action Plan. I believe that also may be something we'll be revisiting so the community is aware of what we're doing for those plans and the update. I'd also like to see us work a little bit more, and again, I guess we'll come down to budgets with this, but the gazebo for the plaza, I'd like to see us be creative on what we can do to get that going. We're going to be seeing a lot of things going on downtown this next year, and that will play a big part of the anchor in this community that shows pride in our community here if we can get something moving on that. So, and when it comes to budget, I'll probably talk a little bit more about that, including putting no smoking signs and no alcohol signs out there. I think it's significant. It's a public place. I don't think that that's necessary to have there, and I'd like to have us move that forward. We also have a new officer that's coming downtown, so we'll have somebody that's actually walking down Main Street, the plaza, and so I'm sure that we'll see about getting an introduction for our new staff member that are bringing the beat downtown. And that'll be enough for my conversation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dutra.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for coming here this evening, and thank you, everybody at home who's watching us. I know that there are a lot of you who are glued to your TVs because this is exciting stuff. I first want to say this is Pride Month, so for the LGBT community, I want to say Happy Pride to everybody. And I know that we're acknowledging some people this evening for the Queer Youth Leadership Awards, as well as in our next meeting in 2 weeks. The Diversity Center will be giving a presentation of the group that they have here in Watsonville and what we provide, the services that we provide, or the diversity provides for the LGBT community. So again, everybody, Happy Pride Month. I wanted to talk, I missed last meeting. I was at the ICSC. We were working with potential businesses to try to get them to come into Watsonville. So many of you this evening spoke about how much you loved Watsonville, and we're just trying to make it a better place for everybody. So I know that the city is working hard and trying to get businesses in here, and hopefully over the next, government works really slow, probably too slow for me. So, I'd like businesses to come in immediately, but, when we look at things, it's years out. So hopefully we can get something in the next couple of years to get some more businesses downtown, which we've been trying to work on, as well as throughout our community. So that's where I was, so I'm sorry I missed it, but I was working hard for you guys, trying to get some businesses in here with the city, with our city manager and our assistant city manager. I attended a few events. We had CAB had their open house. I want to say thank you to CAB. They're always doing a great service to our community, offering services, especially now during this time of Trump, where things are so uncertain and people, we have the immigration issues that we're dealing with under his presidency. I even hate saying that word, but I want to say thank you for that. What you guys do for our community. You are really a pillar, and we appreciate you. MSD School had their art show. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciated looking at all the future artists that we have here in Watsonville, and continue working on all that art. I know that a lot of times schools, that's one of the first things cut, but I see here in our school district, we really push the arts, and I really appreciate it. I also wanted to say, I know I listened to a couple people coming forward this evening. I want to say thank you to all of our workers in Watsonville. I appreciate all of you. We're a team, and we're working hard to move the city forward, and I know when I was elected, I can't believe it, 3 years ago already, one of the top things was to get us off of furloughs, and that happened within the first 2 years. So I'm here, a lot of us, we're all fans of you guys, and we're going to try our hardest to get something done. So know that you have a lot of fans up here. Watsonville Community Hospital, tomorrow I will be there tomorrow for you, and hopefully we can make something happen there as well. So it's important to stand with our workers because you guys do so much for us. And the other issues with our city, you're dealing with some of the city staff that wasn't a good experience. We will look into that as well to make sure that nobody has that experience when you come to us, because we're here to help you guys. So I'm sure the city manager will look into that. And then finally, I'd like to say, or two things. I'm sorry, I'm going over. My list was really long this time. I'm really honored. This is my first week. I'm going to become a director on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We had a couple people step down. I'm going to be representing agriculture for the sanctuary, and people like Jimmy Panetta just stepped down from it, as well as Kirk Schmidt, whose position I'm taking. And it was a pretty hard process to get onto this board, but I'm pretty excited, and I go down to Cambria on Friday to work on the board to preserve our sanctuary that we have right off here on our coast. Quite a beautiful ocean that we have and everything that's in it, so it's important to preserve. And then finally, Ana Caballero is our assembly member, and I just wanted to put this out so that the other council members can hear this, but she's gone without an office for 6 months here in the city of Watsonville, and it's important that she has representation, that she can represent the people here in our community, and I think it's time that we find an adequate location for her. We have a room downstairs that's been vacant for quite a long time, and I know it's on the market to be rented, but I think in the meantime, it's important to have our assembly member here to represent the people of Watsonville so that she can have easy access to her. And right now, we're not providing that to her. So I would hope that the council members could work to help make sure that we can maybe talk to our city to get her downstairs until that place gets rented out. Because right now it's just been sitting there empty when we can have our assembly member down there meeting with her constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
I attended many of the meetings and activities that my colleagues attended, but I want to focus on just two plus add a thank you. First, I wanted to talk about that CAB, Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance, and Santa Cruz Mental Health provided a 3-day training called La Cultura Cura, The Culture Cures. Community members were invited on that first day. The training uses evidence-based research that focuses on culture to prevent substance abuse, gang involvement, violence, sexual abuse, and other risk factors. There's a curriculum for boys, and there's a curriculum for girls. Those who were trained will now use those strategies here in Watsonville with the youth in Watsonville. I'd like to recommend or suggest to Ana from Parks and Recs if she could contact both of these organizations, Prevention and CAB, and talk to their directors, Erica and Maria Elena, to see if this curriculum could possibly be incorporated into our Contigo program, because it sounds like it would be a great supplement to the already great work that we're doing in that program. So please, Ana, if you would do some research and see if it would be appropriate for Contigo. Secondly, the lack of affordable housing is a major issue in Watsonville and throughout Santa Cruz County. Recently, Kimberly from Pajaro Valley Shelter and I were interviewed by 2 UCSC students. These students are members of a project called No Place Like Home. They are going throughout the county, including Watsonville, to learn about renters' experience with housing. There are over 70%. What the preliminary findings are that there are over 70% of renters pay more than the standard 30% of their gross income for rent. In fact, a high rate pay more than 50% of their income for rent. In Santa Cruz, there's a 30 7% overcrowding in bedrooms, kitchens, dining rooms. I would suspect that in Watsonville, it's even a higher rate. Many other problems were found, and the project this project will be sharing that information with the different cities, including Watsonville. So I'm really looking forward to what their findings are, so that perhaps we here in the city of Watsonville can address this issue of housing. And finally, I want to thank Carol, our director for our library, for all the support she has given to the executive director of the Santa Cruz County Housing Authority. To better serve low-income residents with housing in Watsonville, we now have a drop box for documents in the library, first floor, and we have been allowed to have group housing briefings at no cost. This is really a true partnership in terms of helping our low-income families with housing. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hernandez.
You know, first off, I would like to thank all the city employees that are here. I think that the city workers are the face of our city, and that we should compensate them fairly. You know, I've always maintained that since the previous negotiations. Secondly, I want to say that, you know, I don't know what's going on over at Code Enforcement, but if we could look into the issues with Alfredo Garcia and with Salinas Auto Sales. Usually we don't get any, you know, stuff from, you know, from CD or from Code Enforcement here at the council. So it'd be good if we can look into that as well and give the council maybe a report on these issues. Saying that, I want to talk about a little bit about what we faced over the last couple of weeks. The entire Central Coast faced over the last couple of weeks when ICE came in and devastated our communities here, Watsonville, Santa Cruz, Monterey Bay, King City. It really put our community in fear, and I'd like to, first also I'd like to thank the police department for not being involved, not giving any information to ICE. But I would really like to see what else we could do as a community, what we could do as a city, to kind of take it to the next level, to see what else we could do to support, you know, people not living in fear. I noticed the decrease in people just at the farmer's market. I noticed that there was a decrease in people there this last Friday because people were scared to get out of their house. I would like to see, I've asked several of the stores if we could put some of those red cards, and all of them agreed to having stacks of the red cards. And I'd like to see if maybe as a city we can print more of those little red cards, know your rights kind of information on there. But yeah, it was really, you know, scary for people here in our community, and I think that we gotta meet or, you know, continue our meetings with our partners to see what else we could do. Lastly, I also attended some of the events that some of our colleagues attended, you know, some of the graduations, adult ed, Radcliffe Elementary, kindergarten graduation. It was 140 kids yelling and screaming. I attended one function that a lot of the council members attended, the literacy lunch with PVUSD. It's a reading program for kids that's gaming based. Kids love the game, and it's a reading program for them where 20 minutes a day will get them 2 grades ahead of people who don't use it. So a lot of good things that PVUSD is doing. I attended Cracking the Code. It's a diversity training, and you know, I thought that I gained something from it. You know, even though I'm Latino, and I still think that it was a good process. SCORE put that on, and it's really relative to everyone. If anybody has the chance to do that training, make sure you do it. I want to thank the mayor for for signing on with the Conference of Mayors to adhere to the Paris Climate Accord, so that we adhere to it as a city and continue to adhere to our climate goals here in our communities. He joined 62 other mayors throughout the country. So kudos to the mayor. We attended YMCA fundraiser that they're having for their sports programs. You know, they do a lot of good work. When I was young, I attended different programs at the YMCA, from swimming to basketball and different stuff like that. I want to let people know that the senior center is now doing bingo nights on Tuesday. That's every first Tuesday of the month in the evening from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and every Tuesday at noon. I also want to thank the mayor for giving a proclamation to the climate ride. We had several riders from Watsonville that rode their bikes from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and one of the rides was 111 miles. And the Watsonville kid, you know, they rode that whole march, that whole ride. And they raised $50,000 here locally for bike programs, bike infrastructure. So thank you, Mayor, for being there. I also attended this weekend I attended the Portuguese Community's Festa de Espírito, and of course it's always great to go out into different communities that we have here in Watsonville. They had, you know, great food. They're very welcoming. So it was a very fun event if you haven't been to. It's open to everybody, by the way, too. So that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hertz.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and I wanted to thank the residents of the Freedom Mobile Home Park for showing up here this evening and the close call that they had on Saturday with the fire and the dilapidated conditions that exist there, and the focus that the city has helped bring on safety and security and inspection, and it just goes to show the importance of our arrangement with our mobile home rent control, rent stabilization ordinance, and how the residents can be empowered and come together. And I want to thank fire particularly for their speedy involvement, but the police show up there often enough too. And so thank the Freedom Mobile Home Park residents for speaking up and organizing themselves and being a powerful force in the neighborhood. And I did speak with the sheriff's representatives because that area also borders the Vista Verde housing project that's off of Stewart Avenue that's actually in the county and not in the city limits. It was a wonderful occasion at the CAB Open House, and we congratulate Paz Padilla as the Grand Marshal of the 4th of July Parade, 1 o'clock, don't forget. I also want to comment on the speakers this evening and how they embody the power of Watsonville and the care and the concern and the resiliency of residents. We're a strong bunch, and we do need to stick together and move forward. I also attended the Strawberry Commission Scholarship. That was the same night of the adult ed graduation. I was kind of short at both of those, but I did make them both. And so congratulations to all those Strawberry Commission scholarship winners, and there were many, many. Cracking the Code was another great event that brought some focus on racial justice, and I was glad that the mayor could preside and speak there. The employees had an ice cream social that I was able to attend, and I would certainly like to see more employees be social and enjoy that ice cream and have some fun with each other there. As was mentioned earlier, the 150-year planning is going forward, and we're engaging the community little by little on that. And there will be a Chamber of Commerce mixer at Aladdin Nursery on Thursday. And tomorrow, the Area Agency on Aging, the Advisory Council, will meet here in the top floor of City Hall in a room at 10 o'clock. And so if you're interested in senior issues, please come to that meeting. And lastly, I see we've got a very nice announcement from the Mesa Verde Garden Annual Report, and that brings me kind of to the issues of integrated waste at the county level. Our commission has, or task force has met several times, and I'm a little concerned about what's going on, particularly with yard waste and organics and food waste, and how it's going to be handled in the future, and possibly not processed here locally with local jobs, but maybe moved to another county, in fact, and, putting all that green waste material in trucks and taking it to another county and then having it processed and bringing it back as mulch, that doesn't sound very carbon friendly or good for the environment in that regard. But you'll hear more about that later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
Mayor, could I
Yes.
do one more thing
Yes,
that
please.
I forgot to announce too? I'd also like to thank Parks and Recreation and the Contigo program, Watsonville Police Department, and of course our partners with PVPSA and CAB. I don't know if you guys saw the article with the crime rate being cut in half and the zero homicide for over a year. So thank you to the police officers, to the Contigo program, Parks, all of your hard work and dedication for the work you do in the community.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for telling us and giving us your information. Thank you for labor for being here. And I know you want to see action, so I definitely agree with you. And we will do our best. Wanted to just bring a couple of points. On the question of ICE arresting the person, that person is asking for any help that anyone can give, has left a family of 6 here, and probably they will be unemployed for a while. So if anyone would like to help, please, you can contact CAB and the Immigration Project. They will definitely need your help. Wanted to congratulate Ms. Milicic for, she mentioned a great program of the adults graduation. That was just so excited to see adults going to school, getting their diplomas, looking for a career, and looking for work. And what I like about their statements was they never gave up. They continue, go forward. I thought that was really exciting. And for all the graduations that are going on, please be safe. We know that a lot of students are graduating and also can get into problems and with those parties, so please be safe. A lot of the events that have been mentioned by the rest of the council that I have attended, it's really great to go to all of our events and to see our community involved. It's good to see the council involved in every place and trying to have a pulse of what is going on in our community. I think it's very important for us to continue to look to what is going on nationally. It's only a few months that Trump has taken over. It's been a disaster, even though he's trying to say that he has accomplished more than anybody else. It's going to be worse. I call on all of us to really stand up. If the Obamacare goes down, it's really going to affect us even more. You go down the line, the environment, of course he doesn't believe that there's no problem with the environment. Let's stay up to date and let's speak up to what is going on. Let's not just get fooled by all the lies that he's telling us. He continues to be one of the biggest liars president that we have ever had. And I say that because I have seen, since I came here, Kennedy, this is when I came to this country. Even though I was small, but I remember when he died and it was really painful. But there were a lot of bad things that he did too, but nothing compared to what is going on today. And he did great stuff too, that this guy hasn't done yet. So I wanted to just, again, for all, this weekend is going to be Father's Day. Congratulations to all the fathers. And please continue to support all the issues that are being done for the families. With that, I would like to then move to our presentations. We have a really, really great presentations that we want. And I wanted to say, I think that we have supported the Bill 649. We did send a letter against the Bill 649. Okay. Hello? I'm asking Councilmember Dutra to join me, please. Really gives me a great pleasure to see some friendly faces and to see friends that I haven't seen for a long time. And I guess it takes local government to see each other. But I'm always glad to see new faces and old faces. But we're here to really congratulate and to present these certificates to something that's very heroic. Because for generations, this issue has been an issue that nobody wanted to talk about. And especially cities, they want to recognize. And I think that it's so important that we break and start breaking those chains. And that's why to give certificates and recognitions to the queer youth leadership for 20 years of outstanding commitment and dedication to the LGBTIQ youth, the community of Watsonville, and the entire Santa Cruz County. Presentations of mayor certificates of recognition to the 20th Annual Queer Youth Leadership Award nominees. And also, we're going to present some proclamations. So we're going to start first with the presentations, and I want Councilmember Dutra to address us, please.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and thank you for everybody who is going to be receiving their awards for doing all the service that you've done for our community. You know, the LGBT community, we've had a lot of strides over the years, and we have a lot more to go. And I just want to first say, for those of you who are part of the community, it's brave to be out, and it's not easy. But everything that we do day by day, hopefully we're changing the hearts and minds of people. And thank you to all the organizations and all our allies who are out there every single day fighting for us and standing alongside of us. It means the world to us. And all I got to say is just, you know, we've got to stay strong and stick together and continue fighting for equity. And that's something that I know will be achievable in our lifetime. So thank you again, and congratulations to everybody who's going to be receiving your awards this evening. This is a huge accomplishment for the city of Watsonville, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the city and all our council members who are supporting us as well. So thank you. The first people that were nominated for the award is the Diversity Center. So somebody here representing the Diversity Center, Alex. So the Diversity Center has offered youth programs and here in Watsonville, and they have a meetup. So thank you and congratulations on the nomination. Here you go. Okay. The second is our friends at Planned Parenthood. So is someone here from Planned Parenthood? Thank you for being an ally to the LGBT community and standing with us. We appreciate it. Here you go. The next is Digital Nest. Digital Nest, thank you for your organizational ally to the queer youth. Thank you, Digital Nest. Congratulations. Our next will be from Watsonville High School, Andrea Flores. Andrea was a nominee for this year's Queer Youth Leadership Awards. There you go. Congratulations. Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
No, it's fine.
Are you sure? Okay. It's always good to hear from our students, so thank you. Our next is from Pajaro Valley High School, Priscilla Reveles.
Hi guys, I would just like to say thank you to our community and of course to our cities and my school and my school's GSA. I appreciate all they've done for me, and I'd like to give back to the community and my school.
Thank you.
Our next is Jen Salinas Holes from Alianza Charter School, GSA advisor. Congratulations, Jen. Here you go. Jen, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you so much. I would just like to say I'm very proud of all of the middle school students I work with, whether they're LGBTQ or allies. They're brave and they're awesome and they're making our community better, and it's a huge privilege to get to work with them. So thank you so much.
Jen.
Thank you very much to all this recognition. Now we'd like to present you the Mayor's proclamations commending the 2017 Queer Youth Leadership Award winners. Isa Moreno. This one, Isa Moreno, thank you, Queer Youth Leadership Award winner. Whereas Isa, a senior at the Watsonville High, is the president of the Sexuality and Gender Acceptance Club in the top of her class, and whereas she consistently exercised her leadership skills by running meetings and organizing local and national events, such as National Day of Silence and Coming Out Day, and whereas after conquering her internal struggle as a chicana, oh, perdón, disculpa, chicana, porque me confundió la X, chicana from a relatively conservative community, Isa has found her voice and is determined to make a difference for young people forced to hide their identity in fear of harassment, as whereas her work in the community is too numerous to list. But without reservation, Isa is a student leader who deserves to be recognized for her intersectional LGBTQ organizing that is bringing awareness and connecting people of color struggle, LGBTQ issue and immigration in this region. Therefore, I, Oscar Rios, Mayor of the City of Watsonville, in the state of California, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby commend Isa Moreno for all her outstanding accomplishment, and would like to recognize her for her dedication to the youth queer leadership in the Watsonville community, and wish her much success all her future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Big certificate. Primeramente quiero agradecer a mi comunidad de Watsonville y también a mi familia que están ahí. Gracias por apoyarme siempre, y gracias a Jimmy Dutra and Mayor Rios for supporting the LGBT community, and for Alianza for shaping who I am now, and for Andrea Flores for being an amazing new president of Watsonville High School Saga. So thank you.
Where are you going to school? Because didn't you graduate?
I was the Watsonville High School 2017 valedictorian, and I'm going to UCLA on a Regent scholarship.
Thank you. Congratulations. We hope you come back to our community. I will. All right, thank you. Okay. Número 2. Oh, this one is for Alex Santana Jr.
On down.
Alex, congratulations. Alex Santana Jr. is the lead youth program coordinator at the Diversity Center, where he fiercely advocates for queer and trans youth across Santa Cruz County, and particularly in the Watsonville area, where he grew up, and whereas he was lead coordinator for Watsonville's first ever queer youth program titled Party in the Closet. In addition to organizing an annual queer camp where about 40 queers and trans youth enjoy a weekend of camping filled with activities and unforgettable experience, and whereas in his role as a triangle speaker, Alex has shared his own personal story in numerous schools in order to raise awareness of the intersections of being Latino and queer and. Whereas throughout his vision, he has created a space for LGBTQ plus use of colors to connect and build community. Now, therefore, I, Oscar Rios, Mayor of the City of Watsonville in the state of California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby commend Alex Santana Jr. for all his outstanding accomplishment, and would like to recognize him for his dedication to the queer youth leadership in the Watsonville community, and wish him much success in all his future endeavors. Thank you very much. Thank you. ¿Una palabra?
Es un profundo placer poder trabajar con estudiantes con tanto coraje. It's a great honor to work with so many students who have such deep and profound courage to be out and to not only be out, but also be supportive of other students who need the support. And all of this work has been for them, and I look forward to working with our rising stars and our rising leaders in the community to continue our work. And thank you to the mayor and Jimmy Dutra for being supporters. And yeah.
Thank you, Alex. One second. Okay. We'll continue. The next one is for Alianza Charter School, Gay and Straight Alliance. GSA, somebody here? Okay. Thank you. Alianza Charter School Gay Straight Alliance, Organizational Ally to Queer Youth Award winner, May 13, 2017. Whereas the Alianza Charter School, GSA, in Watsonville consistently works for social justice. Alianza is a KA Spanish-English dual immersion school enabling the middle school GSA to empower a diverse group of students. And whereas to create connections between their school, GSA members decided to move their weekly meeting to a different day in order to invite Watsonville charter schools of the arts students. Together, they make bilingual posters around events like National Coming Out Day, Transgender Day of Remembrance, and Day of Silence to educate students and staff. And whereas these posters prompt discussions among students of all ages, helping make their school climate safer and more welcoming. This year, Alianza WCSA GSA was the first middle school group to present a workshop at the Queer, Trans, and Alliance Student Summit in Watsonville. Now therefore, I, Oscar Rios, Mayor of the City of Watsonville, in the state of California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby commend Alianza Charter School Gay Straight Alliance for all of their outstanding accomplishment and would like to recognize them for their dedication to the queer youth leadership in the Watsonville community and wish them much success in all their future endeavors. Congratulations! Who would like to speak? No, one of you, come on.
Congratulations.
Habla. Yes, you can speak. There you go. There you go. Start getting used to it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We just want to say how much of an honor it is to receive this award, and we are very thankful for the city recognizing us and what we do, I guess.
Thank you very much. That was really good. You can see them. Thank you very much.
I want to say, did Digital Nest, Jacob, do you want to say something, or Planned Parenthood? I forgot to ask you guys if you want to say a few words at all. You're all good? Okay. With everyone? Oh, yeah, sure. Come on up.
Stay over here.
Everybody come up. Photo op. All the winners, if you guys would all like to come up here. Or non-winners. Everybody's a winner in this right here.
Get closer.
Do you guys want to come? Do you guys want to come, council?
We'll just be in the background here.
What's that?
The rabbit ears behind you.
Yeah.
Everybody in? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Congratulations. Oh, yes. Stuart, please come forward. He's one of the main organizers here.
I just want to thank the mayor, Oscar Rios. I've known you for a long time. When we first brought the Queer Youth Awards back in, 20 years ago, you were there for us, and just want to thank you for your leadership. And Mr. Dutra, thank you for being a visible leader in our community and being role models for other kids, and also for you, for what you do for families, both of you. Thank you very much. And just all the nominees and all the awardees from Watsonville, doing important life-saving work, and just very grateful to all the good work that y'all are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Council, any words? No. We're trying the chairs, huh? What is this? This is like Napoleon, man, going down. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you all the families for being here. It's really important for families to support and to show their positiveness of what life is about. We're going to move on. Let me find my space here. Move to consent agenda. Any?
We have a report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have a presentation by Police Captain Zamora regarding the community engagement program, Agua con la Chota. I like that. O la Chota tomando agua.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Y buenas noches to everybody. My name is Jorge Zamora. I'm a police captain at the police department. And this evening, I'll give you just kind of a snapshot of the pilot program that we experimented with at the police department. It's called Agua con la Chota, which I guess in translation is watch out with the cops. But this is something different. You take away the S and it's agua, so it's water with the cops. And the idea behind the program is for organizations that partner with us to go out to the fields and communicate with the farm workers about things that are important to them. And we took this idea from, I'm sure everyone's heard of Coffee with a Cop, which is a very, very good program. But in thinking about moving forward with that program here, we really wanted to reach out to the folks that have an anxiety to call the police or have a history of being afraid of the police, especially during these times. And we figured, well, what better thing to do that in a way that we could go out to the fields and actually talk with them. So what we did is we partnered with Youth Violence Prevention Task Force, Community Action Board, United Way, one of the ranchers, Art, who is here, and the Police Activities League. And we thought of this idea, right? And the way that it went down was, so on May 8th, 12th, 8th, 11th, and 12th, we went out there on 3 separate occasions. And the first day was really kind of to introduce ourselves. And we weren't in uniform because there is this fear or kind of idea when a police officer walks into a room, right? I don't know, so sometimes it could just be a little overwhelming, or it just takes people off. So what we did was we went out there in plain clothes, introduced ourselves, talked about our history. The officers who participated were very vulnerable and talked about how they grew up, and were able to connect with a lot of the workers. And part of what we wanted to introduce to them was the importance of communication, the importance of trust, and also we wanted to hear from them. What was it that was important to them? And on the second session that we went out there, we met with 2 work crews. They decided that they wanted to know a little bit more about immigration issues. And they wanted to know a little bit more about what happens when they call the police. So on the 3rd day, we actually went out and gave a presentation, had lunch with them, and there was a lot of laughs. They got to meet a lot of the people at the police department, as well as people from the other community-based organizations. And what was unique about this was they actually got to meet everyone at the police department that works like at the front counter, so our professional staff, and I never really gave it much thought, but everybody who works at the front counter speaks Spanish. So we were able to introduce them to the people that they're going to be engaging with when they come to the police department and make them feel comfortable around them, to talking with the chief of police or the officers or detectives. And it was just really, really satisfying to see the impact that I'm sure Art will talk about in just a bit here. One of the things that came up was everybody was always talking about, and I've always heard throughout the years, the guy on the motorcycle, right? El de la moto. He always gives tickets, but you know, we actually have 3. But so the guy on the motorcycle actually came out, right? And he was mingling along with them and didn't speak a lick of Spanish, but he was smiling and hugging people, and it was really cool. So, you know, I can't stress enough how this project, I think, impacted me and a lot of the people that participated. Strengthening law enforcement and community relations has been identified by the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force as one of the top strategies to really achieve fostering safe neighborhoods. And throughout my years on this program, and Watsonville Police has been participating in this for almost 4 years now, maybe a little bit more, I've seen those who are interested and those who are committed. And those who are committed are the ones that made this type of project happen. And I'll just go through some of the slides here, through some of the photos, and you'll see we're no different than those people out there. And to see them go from being nervous around us to being able to have snacks with us and drink refreshments out there in the fields, and then to eat with us, right? And then that in itself wouldn't have been possible without funding from Measure G. The money that we received from that funding paid for this. So again, I always talk about how problems in the community are not independent of themselves, and it takes the collaborative to really work together, and collaborative work is actually really tough. But we did it. And when I say we did it, I mean we all did it, right? And this is just the first step in this type of program. We just met with the Mexican consulate, who is interested in coming out with us. We're looking at another grower who is wanting to participate in this type of activity. But again, I just really think that the people at the police department who helped out with this, Javier Diaz, Lola Maldonado, Patty Mata, the officers who really took place in making this happen was huge. And then our chief of police and the assistant chief were very, very supportive, which is huge as well. But I wanted to call up Art, who was the rancher who we worked with. And he was a huge piece in making this happen, because without him, there's no way that we could go out to the fields and just kind of talk to people, right? You can imagine how that would go. So,
good afternoon, everybody. My name is Arturo Diaz, Jr. The company, my father's company's name is Rancho Alitos. My brother Javier works for the United Way, and they approached us with this concept that they had. My father and I have always been a firm believer of helping out our employees as well as our community. So we believe this is a great program, because to our employees it was very helpful, as well as great for them to feel part of the community as well, getting questions answered by the police officers, being helped by different communities programs. Like Mr. Hernandez mentioned about that red card, they did bring some out. They got to see what the steps were for protection or for ICE. They also understood, got some questions answered, like, for example, for ICE to even come out into our fields, they have special procedures that have to be followed. And so they felt very comfortable with everything that was being said. And one of the great things of the Watsonville Community police officers that came out was that, for me, was very awesome and great, was that when one of the first ranches we got to, a couple of the police officers ended up knowing personally our employees, like to the first name basis. And the employees never realized that they were, police officers. It's just normal people out there. Now they clicked, now they understand, now they have a lot of questions answered, and I think this is a great program that I would love to see expanded or used throughout the agricultural community, because there is a lot of information out there that could be given out to people that need it. I just want to say thanks to Watsonville Community Hospital police officers.
They also take people to the hospital too.
Them too, but everybody involved in this program. I apologize, I'm a little nervous here, but everybody involved in the program, thank you. From my employees to all you guys, thanks. We appreciated all the questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you. How did you come out with the name Alitos?
My father, and his business partner, I don't know, come out of the wind.
Nice name.
Yeah. It's,
Muchas gracias.
Yeah, thank you, and you guys have a great night.
So if I could just add one more thing. One of the things that I didn't think would happen, but we gave it a shot anyway, was to offer these folks a police ride-along. And some of them actually signed up, right? To go from being in a place where they think they cannot absolutely call the police because they'll get deported or we're going to charge them for services, to I'm actually going to ride around in the police car, right? So it was really, really cool to be able to see that happen. And again, it took a lot of folks to make this happen. So I thank you, and I thank everybody on the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force, as well as our chief. So thank you.
Thank you, Captain. I would like to invite Javier to give us a couple of words. Javier Diaz, I know that he wasn't expecting, but I saw you in the picture.
Thank you for inviting me up. I don't wear suits that often, so I get to show it off. Thank you.
We noticed.
I want to echo everything that Captain Zamora has mentioned, as well as my brother, about the impact that was felt not only with our local police department, but also with people working out there in the fields. And I think as we begin to see our plan form in the shape of activities, having the support of the city in the way that we've had it, present in our meetings, present in our steering committees, and then backing us with some funding in order to make this happen. I mean, it was much needed. People were happy, were participating. We had to go get another round of carnitas out there because everyone was just having a good time and participating. So thank you to everybody. Really appreciate it. We are seeing our results impacted. We are seeing trust with law enforcement increasing. And if we look at that and focus on that trust that's being built, you see the amazing things that are happening. So again, echo the thank you and really appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Javier. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're moving on then. Moving to consent agenda. Question, I'm sorry. Any report from out of closed session? Get so excited over here, you just want to keep.
Right, no final action out of closed session. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That was excited. All right, moving along then, now to consent agenda. Questions on consent agenda, Ms. Garcia.
Yes, in terms of the minutes of May 23rd, there's a correction that needs to be made. Additional funding added to the social service grants was $7,500 and not $7,000 as stated.
Let it be corrected? Okay. Other questions on consent agenda? Ms. Pelicic.
Well, I think items B, C, and D are important, and I would like to have Director Palmisano just give a quick overview of each one.
For the traffic entry.
can be relatively short, just
Just
so people know.
highlights.
Yeah, just highlights quickly.
Great. Okay. Let me find. Okay, so B is a cooperative agreement. Essentially, it's an agreement with Caltrans to put together the design and environmental review for a pedestrian bridge to the high school. And so it's grant funded, largely with a small amount of impact fee funding for the match. So that's to move that project forward to the next phase. Item
I
C.
think that's good that people understand what we're doing and what you're doing and what your department's doing. And so if we're going to have a bridge and for bike and pedestrian safety by the high school, that's a real positive thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we hope it would have tremendous improvements to the traffic situation there in terms of drop-offs and pickups and more safe commute for pedestrians and bike riders over there. So that's the intent of that one. Item C is the Measure D master funding plan. So several months ago, Council approved a funding plan to use the approximately $750,000 a year of Measure D funding for a variety of projects. And some of those highlights include improving downtown, continuing the road improvements such as what we are seeing right here in front of Civic Plaza. Freedom Boulevard, continuing to reconstruct that very important thoroughfare for us in a couple different segments. $2 million of the project funding out of about $4 million will be going to road resurfacing projects. So those are just putting a new layer of slurry seal over many miles of our streets throughout the community. So those are very important projects to maintain the current city street infrastructure and dramatically improve the lives of those streets in the long term. So very important.
And the slurry seal will come after you're digging up your pipes, right?
We make our best effort to do that.
That's
yes.
good, very good.
Unless
But
we
I think
have-
this is our Measure D funds, and this is really good for people to see that without this, without Measure D, these projects would not happen. So again,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And the last one is item D is the Zone 7 budget, and every year City Council approves the flood control district budget, and that largely, it's about a $3.2 million budget, and the kind of highlights of that include a variety of levee maintenance activities, mowing, vegetation, repairing banks, bank stabilization, and then about $500,000 goes towards the Army Corps project, the local cost share of that project, to keep that moving forward slowly but surely. And there is some progress being made. And of course, it's always much slower than we would like to see, but it is still moving. So there's a lot of work to be done just to maintain the existing levees we have in their current condition and prepare for whatever kind of winter may be coming this year. So
I'm glad to see that the public sees that there are Zone 7 dollars going into levee repair or maintenance. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. That was
Right,
short
thank
to
you.
the point.
With that, I will move the passage of the
Second.
consent agenda.
Question.
Yes, Mayor, I do have a question
Yes.
regarding, and maybe Mr. Palmisano can answer this, regarding the pedestrian bridge over Highway 1. We're looking at a couple of $1 million there, and we're not on the hook for it all, but it's pretty expensive, and I don't want the public to think that we're going to solve all the access problems to PV High with a bike and pedestrian bridge. This may not have the effect on traffic auto congestion that we hope, but it will make the passageway safer for students and bicyclists to get to the high school. What I'm concerned about, though, with the bridge is that intersection is incomplete. It's not a full diamond, it's a half a diamond. And that means that there's a couple of ramps missing. And so would this pedestrian bridge box out the opportunity or the chance of ever having north and southbound ramps completed on that interchange to make it a full diamond?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Councilmember Hurst, Maria Esther Rodriguez, Assistant Director of Public Works. The project will indeed focus on pedestrian and bicycle safety, this particular phase, but we are looking at other phases. However, while a southbound off-ramp would probably not be in the future mix, it doesn't preclude a on-ramp, but the traffic studies still have to be finalized. What we've seen with the previous studies is that those ramps wouldn't add significantly to reduce congestion in the area. In fact, it would compete a little bit more with the pedestrians. So what we're looking at is traffic improvements along the Green Valley Road corridor and perhaps at the Main and Green Valley intersection to see how traffic in the general area can move better without having those ramps as well.
Can you explain to them maybe why the ramps are, why we cannot have a south, why there's not, probably will never be a south ramp?
Yes, that was, so another part of this process involved working with the Coastal Commission, and one of the requirements that we have to take into account when we're working on these projects is that a southbound on-ramp cannot be used to mitigate traffic related to the high school. And that's in our coastal permit.
Thank you.
Requirements.
My question really is, if we build the pedestrian bridge, will that box out any chance of having those ramps? Are they incompatible with each other?
I think they may be, but I couldn't say 100% for sure. It depends on how the ultimate design of this pedestrian bridge comes out.
Will that bridge design take in consideration that those ramps could be built sometime in the future?
Again, we would have to look at what the studies would show. Part of this particular next cooperative agreement does include project study and environmental documents. Part of those environmental documents would involve traffic and potential other things that may come into with the project. So we'll determine with these documents if that would ever be something that would be needed. It may be that those ramps may not be needed to address the traffic, so they would never be built.
Well,
I know it's not clear, but we don't know yet.
Well, I think anybody who drives a car knows that if they could get off at the intersection of Harkins Slough and Highway 1, that they would not have to go on Main Street and clog that intersection.
Correct.
So I think, hopefully there'll be some common sense applied to the design, and it won't totally preclude the possibility, remote as it might be, that you could have a north and south ramp off of Harkins Slough.
And just to add to the conversation about the congestion in the area, one of the things, the alternatives we have been looking at is redoing Main and Green Valley. Currently, it's one of the worst intersections actually in the city, but currently it's split. So one side goes on Green Valley, then the other side goes. If we change the phasing and can look at the operational improvements there, it would improve access onto that Highway 1 area that we're talking about. So things like that, other projects like that may add to it. But again, duly noted, when we're looking at this next document, we would take that into account and answer that question.
Well, correct me, but in the RTC, there's no plans for it.
In the RTC, there's no plans, especially for the off-ramp. Yes.
Yes.
And this was originally, the money that's going to the bridge was originally for an off-ramp, right? And they moved it over to a bridge because they said you can't do that. You can't have the off-ramps.
Correct. It was originally for a full diamond in change, yes.
So it's not coming back.
Thank you. While we're on the subject of this particular bridge, I know that there was just a briefly mentioned timeline on this particular project for us to go through this process for the study and deal with where we're going to get for funding. Where we are with the timeline on this and the process it's going to take.
So this next process will take approximately 12 months to 12 to 18 months to get through this next phase. That's about the timeline to finish these next documents.
And then at that, we're dealing with after the phase, dealing with funding for the project itself. And do we have that already identified once this comes out of it, or we're dealing with money that we're supposed to come up with as well to supplement?
This is one of those conversations you may recall that about a year ago we were looking at funding sources and with the Regional Transportation Commission, the STIP money, the STIP grant funding that we got for this project, the construction portion of it was moved out beyond the current STIP programming document. So currently we don't have construction money beyond the current document from the STIP program. However, the RTC is committed to making sure funds become available because of that funding getting pushed out. They are committed to either, when the document is up for renewal, that Watsonville does indeed get that money for our project, and or they also will help in finding grant sources that could be used for the project as well.
My other question about this particular project is, while it covers the pedestrian to go across the highway there, is it also going to include any of the study about the transition of, like, for example, the bicycles? Because they're not going to be on the sidewalk, but you're going to have a wide enough that bicycles can go, plus the sidewalk for the pedestrians. And my concern is we need to make sure what's happening with the cyclists once they get off of this bridge and transition onto this section of Green Valley.
Yes, indeed, that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure that is included in there. We have talked about it a little bit as we got to this point, seeing how we can accommodate bicycles and pedestrians, because that's what it's intended for, and to be able to get them to and from this bridge from the existing roadway. If that means, I don't know, that could mean like a buffered bike lane on one side, it could mean widening something, but we are indeed looking at that as part of this project.
Thank you.
Any members of the public that would like to address us on items in the consent agenda? Seeing none, roll call?
Will you please let me know who was the seconder?
I'll second the motion. I think that we just had the first.
Oh, Felipe.
Felipe was second. He was, yeah.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Belisich, and then a second by Mr. Hernandez.
Bielisich?
Yes.
Hoffman Gomez?
Yes.
Dutra?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Hurst?
Yes.
Rios?
Yes. Moving to number 8A, this is a Measure G report by Revenue Oversight Committee Chair Garrett McMaffrey as required by Watsonville Municipal Code, Section 3-6.1102.
Welcome, Mr. Manfrey.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
City council members. My name is Gary Manfrey. I'm the chair of the Measure G Committee. I'm here to make the required public report of fiscal year 2015 and 16. The revenue and expenses. I'm reporting audited numbers, which are slightly different and rounded off from the unaudited numbers in the annual report, so it's up to date. Total 15-16 fiscal year Measure G revenue was $3,657,000. $1,274,000 was kept in reserve. Any part of the reserve which is more than the required 10% or $366,000 will be used to pay installments on 2 new fire vehicles. The policeman department's 60% share of revenue was $2,194,000. Of that, $554,000 paid for 4 police officers, a crime analyst, a police service specialist, a property and evidence technician, a community organizer, and a recreation specialist. $493,000 was paid for police training, a second PAL location at 37 Davis, and first-time offender diversion services through the Caminos program. $555,000 was paid for 5 patrol vehicles, 2 unmarked, so be careful there. A motorcycle, police radios, mobile armored shields, and similar equipment. The fire department's 40% share was $1,463,000. $233,000 of that was used to hire and pay 6 new firefighters. $266,000 went for training, rescue coats, medical supplies, helmet shields, and personal protective equipment. $444,000 paid for, among other things, 4 fully equipped Ford Explorer command vehicles, a heart defibrillator, self-contained breathing apparatus, and fire hoses. Measure G requires that the general fund pay a minimum level of service for both police and fire. The general fund met and exceeded this requirement. The police department minimum was $12,360,000, and the general fund spent $17,230,000. Thank you. The fire department minimum was $5,670,000, and the city spent $7,120,000. Again, thank you. Measure G allows no more than 2% of Measure G revenue to be used for administrative cost. That 2% was about $73,000 last year. Only a little over $18,000 was actually spent, so we're good there. In conclusion, I'm reporting that all 2015-2016 Measure G funds were properly deposited, budgeted, spent, and audited. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question from City Council?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gary, for coming today and giving us this, what's going on with our Measure G. I know that the public really appreciates it because everyone wants to know how the money is being spent, you know, that they're paying through their taxes. So what's on the horizon? What are we looking for? Any big projects or purchases that either the police or the fire are going to be looking forward to in the next fiscal year?
Well, I think the 2 fire trucks that were already ordered.
Okay.
That's a big purchase. My understanding, they're ladder trucks.
Fire department.
I think that part of this is my own opinion after seeing that report about no homicides in Watsonville, what the police department's able to do, going out into the fields and meeting people. When I was born and raised in Watsonville, the police were always there to help you out. If you were a kid riding your bike down the street, fire department was the same way. And I think this particular thing here gives us the ability in Watsonville to get that back. And as Captain Zamora said, the police are not bad guys. You know, they're good people. They're out there to police the community and help out. And the more visible they are, the more that people are going to come to them and talk to them. And I think that's what Measure G is able to do, put more boots on the ground, both with the fire department and the police department. And when we were kids growing up, the fire department was always coming to school. You always saw a guy in a nice uniform, you know? So it's a good thing.
Phil, thank you. And we as a community need to be prepared. I know this sunsets in a few years to whether what we're going to do, and hopefully we can extend it to make sure that our fire and police are taken care of beyond the sunset. Thank you.
Well, in that vein there, or whatever you want to call it, personally myself, having been on this committee, I think that if it's done properly and the people of Watsonville, the voters of Watsonville see that it works, I think that instead of sunsetting it, let's get the sun to rise again in a couple more years and get this back on there and keep it rolling.
I agree.
Okay?
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Ms. Belisic.
I just wanted to thank you, Gary, for your work and your leadership with this committee and also the whole team. But, you know, it takes a leader to make things happen, and I think you're greatly appreciated in the community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Gary, again, just want to say thank you very much for what you're doing. I know that I'm always a fiscal steward up here, and you're doing the same for the Measure G, because we need to make sure that we have an impeccable reputation for taking this to the voters to get the 2/3 vote for this particular measure that we have here. And I would expect that there's going to be a future discussion of what we're going to do before it falls short of we didn't get this prepared in time, whether it's going to be an extension or whether we're going to, you know, have a feasibility of it being a continuation. Because what we would hate to have happen is it to be not planned out for it to go away and we have all of the staff, we have the resources, we've got a reputation of doing very good in our community here with the statistics that have been in the media for both the fire and the police. And so I'm hoping that we have some good community conversation about either a perpetuity or an extension. We also have this CalPERS hit that's going to hit us. And the last thing we need is for this to sunrise out or sunset out, and then with that other fiscal hit on top of it. So we definitely need to collaborate what the plan is going to be for G, while we're also figuring out what's going to happen with the impact from the state on the CalPERS, which is significant for the police and fire for our budget. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Hertz.
Thank you, Mayor. Gary, thank you very much, and thank the whole committee for us. You know, this is a real team effort and,
Yes, it
and an
is.
example of real partnership between police and fire and the voters and the tax-paying public. And so since this is a sales tax, I think that folks need to remember to shop locally, and this is how we can improve the city through shopping locally. Thank you.
Totally agree.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair. Thank you. Anybody else from the public that would like to address this item? Seeing none, we will move. That was just a report. Moving on, we're going to move item B before item A, if it's okay with the council, since we don't want Mr. Charles City here to stay all night, even though maybe he should, to remind him
Yeah.
of his old days here. Okay, staff report.
Ms. Susie Miriam?
You guys got the boot.
Well, I do think Charles Eady should stay all night here. I think he owes it to us in many respects. So, Charlie, even though the item will be over in a few minutes, you're staying all night, I hope.
Thank you, Susie Merriam, Acting Director for the Community Development Department. Just want to let you know that the Pilots Association has withdrawn the appeal for the major variance with environmental review for Nordic Naturals at 111 Jennings Drive.
That's really great news. And who was able to do that?
At about a little before 5 o'clock, we received a letter via email from the lawyers for the Pilots Association, indicating that they had worked out an agreement with Nordic Naturals.
Great. Mr. Montoya?
Mayor, council, staff, the WPA, you know, I think we're all working together. I think we all have the best interest of the airport, and I appreciate you guys' input and continued involvement. I mean, I think we're all going for the biggest thing in the world, which is making that airport strong and making a vitality for this community. So I appreciate you guys always keeping the doors open, and I'm always here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Natalie Kirkish from Whitworth Parkin and representing the Watsonville Pilots Association. I provided a letter describing why we withdrew our appeal, but I still wanted to make a few comments. While we agree with some statements made in the appeal staff report that the project itself complies with the most stringent interpretation of the handbook, our issue was that there is no valid general plan in the area around the airport, and because of that, we have taken the position that no project can be approved in those airport safety zones until there is a general plan. In reading the most recent staff report for the high school auditorium, it appears that the city staff agrees with us, and the Department of Aeronautics has as well. So this project, we were able to work out an agreement because it's substantially similar to the project that was previously approved. It's not increasing in height or square footage. It's not expanding towards the runway in any way. But we don't want this to set a precedent for future approvals in this area. There is still this general plan issue. Another issue that I mentioned in the letter is that whether adequate notice was provided to the Watsonville pilots and the Airport Advisory Committee. And in discussions with staff, I think in the future, it sounds like we are going to have the opportunity to have notice and input. And so, as you mentioned, Mr. Montoya, we do look forward to working with you. And in going forward with your budgetary discussions, something I urge you to consider is to budget to complete the general plan to incorporate the handbook and its mandatory provisions into the general plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anthony. Since we're doing public input, any other member from the public that would like to address us?
3 minutes.
Well, okay, as long as I'm here, I might as well say something. I'm Charlie Eady with Eady Consultants, and I've been representing Nordic Naturals not only on this current application, but on the original project that was approved in 2008. And I'm very happy that the Pilots Association has withdrawn the appeal. We worked hard to provide a way for them to do that. I think it's emblematic of the commitment that Nordic has to this community, that they're willing to spend the time and the money to resolve this. We've always felt that the appeal was really not about our project. It was really about the bigger picture interaction between the city and the Pilots Association on that long-standing blockbuster movie called, I think it's called Propeller Wars. Episode 7 is coming up next, The Return of the General Plan. So we hope that is a good sequel, and we urge you as council members and the pilots to find a way to come to agreement. I will say that this project, this Phase 2 expansion, has no impact on safety for the airport. I would also say that the pilots supported the entirety of this project in 2008. So it was a surprise to us that this was appealed in the first place. But in any case, it's going to mean a lot for Watsonville. This is ultimately going to bring 130 jobs. Those jobs would have gone to San Diego because time is of the essence. Nordic operates in a fast-paced, competitive world. They're a worldwide company, and this R&D function was absolutely critical for their continuance here to do the maximum potential of the site. So again, I want to express our appreciation to the Planning Commission and to the council and to the Pilots Association for all the work you do. And on a personal note, I'd just like to say it was a real pleasure to be here tonight and see some old friends and a couple new faces, but really more than anything else to enjoy the spirit of the community and the joy and the quality of the people here that really shined through and touched me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Eady. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, any other comments from staff?
No
Seeing
comments.
none, city manager comments? City council, Mr. Dutra.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I want to say, first of all, thank you for the expansion of Nordic Naturals. I think this is going to be great in our community. Jobs is always something that we want to add here, and I think that expanding an already established business that will bring in more people to hopefully live and shop in our city is something that's very positive. I also want to say thank you to the Watsonville, to the Pilots Association for supporting this project. I know that as a community, it's important to continue to grow business and make sure that our general fund gets those tax money in there so that we can offer a very all the services to our community. So I want to say thank you to everybody involved. I don't know, and part of the city as well. I don't who was dealing with this as well. So thank you for making this happen. Thank you,
Mr. Hertz.
Well, I think everybody dug deep on this one. I want to express my appreciation personally to the Pilots Association and their members and their representatives, and also to Nordic Naturals for their braveness and willingness to bring jobs and hopefully prosperity to their employees here in the community. Thank you.
Ms. Pilicic.
I would probably say the same thing Councilmember Hurst said. I really appreciate the pilots looking at the overall picture and agreeing with what's happening with Nordic Naturals. And of course, Nordic Naturals is great to expand for jobs, and I'm glad that the parking issue is not an issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all that good comments. And I think it's important for our city residents for them to see that there is a commitment from this council, from this staff, to move forward and build our economic base here, and that we will work with entities, we will respect all the laws that have to be done to make things happen, but that we have a commitment to make and build an economic base that we can sustain ourselves and that we can also address some of the concerns that were brought to us earlier. So again, thank you very much for everyone that made this possible. Ms. Gomez, please.
Yes, again, a holistic approach for a holistic company that is very good in terms of rooted in this community, building itself, building a good, strong base, foundation that's here, and effectively consolidating what they need to do to come to this community. I believe that we'll be seeing San Diego come up this way in terms of some of their employees, and I think it will also benefit the research and development that this company is going to provide that's here. And thinking outside of the box regarding what we needed to do with the variance on the parking, because it isn't a facility that we have a lot of public that's going to be attending, and cars that are unknown. They've got a pretty set employee base, their hours and whatnot, so they already know what they need, and this variance allows them to satisfy what capacity that they're going to be building that's there, and they've always had a good reputation with how they've taken care of their facility and what they've done in this community. So I'm looking forward to seeing a future development and future relationship with Nordic in our community here.
Ms. Garcia.
I just wanted to say I echo and underline everything that has already been said, and just wanted to say that every day I take 2 omega-3 tablets. Thank you.
All right. With that,
Me too.
that brings us to close to this meeting. And we are going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back for our heavy hitter budget
Do we have to
item
approve
that
it?
everybody's waiting for.
We have to do a motion.
No motion. There's no motion needed.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's.
Yeah, no motion needed. Thank you. Of the budget for fiscal year 2017-2019. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council, members of the public. For the record, my name is Matt Huffaker. I'm the Assistant City Manager, and I'll be making the presentation tonight on the draft 2017-2018 budget. Before we get started, I did want to take a second to thank Bill Hayes, Acting Finance Director, and the whole finance team, as well as all of our department staff for the significant amount of work required to put this budget together tonight that you see in front of you.
All 400 pages.
It was a team effort, that's right. All 400 pages. All right. So again, before the council tonight, staff will present the proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 budget plan, including the 5-year capital improvement program. No action is required of the council tonight. We're here to collect feedback and questions. We will be returning on June 23rd for final review and adoption of the budget at that point. Under the city charter, just as a reminder, the city of Watsonville, sections 1103 and 1105 instruct that the city manager must prepare and present a proposed budget for the ensuing fiscal year at least 30 days prior to the beginning of the next fiscal year. A draft of the budget was provided to the council the week of May 20th. Today serves as the first public hearing, and again, June 23rd will be final review and adoption within the charter's requirements.
Are you sure about that date?
June 23rd? You have the date wrong.
Looks like a Friday to me.
Oh, well, we wouldn't want to have you review the budget on a Friday.
27th.
Black Friday.
I stand corrected. Final adoption will be on June 27th, for the record.
Correct. It's those little details that matter.
I appreciate that, Councilmember Hurst. All right, so starting off with some quick background. The city of Watsonville has a strategic plan that's built into the budget process. The council last reviewed and developed the 2-year strategic plan that's a 2015-2017 strategic plan in 2015. Some of the information discussing development of the strategic plan in the budget was outdated. It was brought to my attention by Councilmember Garcia. And so staff's plan is to work with the council over the next year in hiring a consultant to work on updating the strategic plan. It's time. It was a 2-year strategic plan. At that point in time, staff will also bring back to the council a report on all the progress that was made on the 2015-2017 strategic plan as well. And that'll be a public process available for community input as well. And we will plan on working on that with the council over the next year. The current strategic plan has 6 priorities. It's protect public safety, increase economic development, decrease reliance on reserve fund, improve communications, and enhance community image. The council also this year held the first council workshop in many years, and as part of that, brainstormed and established some shorter term goals for the next year. We plan on bringing those to the council as part of the next budget meeting for the council's final review and adoption. So the city's budget, this is a quick snapshot of all of the funds. The total city budget amounts to about $144 million, and that includes all funds across our general fund, including all of our utilities and our special revenue funds. As we look at the general fund balance, you can see that there's been a positive trend in terms of our total fund balance. The council established a target 20% reserve in 2015, and staff have been working hard over the last few years to control costs and work towards increasing that fund balance. And you can see in front of you that the fund balance now for 2016 is the highest it's been since 2006 and over a decade. And we continue to work hard as we look at the budget for 17-18 and continuing to add to that fund balance. For comparison purposes, we provided this at the mid-year budget as well, but you can see in front of you what the median fund balance is for many of the other cities in our area. The median is at about 32%, and our current fund balance is at 21%. That's a healthy fund balance. We've made positive growth towards that. But this is just a reminder that we need to continue looking for ways that we can ensure that we are prepared for any downturn in the economy or any unknown major expenses that might be coming our way. So again, on the budget schedule, we look at a biannual budget. Year one is 2017, 2018. That's the draft you have in front of you tonight. We brought a mid-year estimate to the council on February 28th of 2017. The draft budget was provided to the council on May 20th. And tonight, on June 13th, we are bringing you the budget first public hearing, and final adoption will be on June 27th. So a quick snapshot of the proposed operating budget, consolidated fund summary across all of our funds. You can see there that the general fund is at about $40.4 million. That's about a $2 million increase in revenues over the last fiscal year. That has been a positive growth trend, and we'll provide more detail on that a little bit later this evening. Capital projects continue to be lean, and our capital programs continue to be largely restricted. And so you can see in front of you on this slide that there's, of the total frozen general fund capital needs, we're really funding a very small percentage of that. And that's still due to the fact that we just have a lack of resources available to get after a lot of our unfunded infrastructure and capital needs. The Measure M cannabis tax, as the council is aware, the community approved the Measure M cannabis tax structure this last November. As part of that, that allocated 20% of the revenues collected to law enforcement and crime prevention services, 15% used for fire services, 20% for community development services, 25% for parks and community services, 8% used for library, and 12% for nonprofit and community services related to prevention. Real quick on that, you can see the summary and what the breakdown is across all of those applicable departments. I can tell you that the revenue forecast for the next year is a conservative one. It really mainly accounts for cultivation permits that are already in place, getting up and running. There's no revenue assumptions at this point built in for the manufacturing piece, which is now moving forward as well. So we do anticipate that over the next year and at the mid-year, we will be bringing updates to these revenue figures, as well as adjustments to service and capital projects for each of these departments as part of that. So under the current plan for the next year, the police department, as well as several of the other departments, do have plans for some additional positions through this funding. All of these positions target service enhancements and working towards growing some existing programs. Examples of that include for the police department, the Police Activities League is really in need of a recreation specialist. Talking with the police chief, that program has been a great program for the community, but it's under-resourced. And so in order to really give it a injection of energy, keep it running, make sure that we're continuing to give it resources, it needs some additional support. For fire, we'd be looking at 2 temporary life safety fire inspection officers. And again, this would be largely tied to some of the additional work that the cannabis industry would be generating, as well as other fire inspections and fire suppression work we need to do throughout the community. For community development, we'd be looking at a code enforcement officer. A lot of this is tied in with the additional proactive code enforcement work we're doing. For parks and community services, we'd be looking at 3 positions, a park maintenance worker 2, a facility attendant, and a quarter-time recreation specialist. All of these positions are really focused at trying to expand maintenance and safety in our city parks and our landscaping work. We have a very lean team that does all the work throughout the community. It's a lot of work to keep up on. They do an excellent job with the resources they have, but they need some additional help. The facility attendant also looks at all the facility rentals we have. Right now, we cover that with existing staff. It's a lot to keep up with, so this allows us to have someone dedicated that can better work on that. In terms of capital, some of the capital purchases included in the Measure M plan include a new mower for park maintenance work. This would allow greater efficiencies, allow us to catch up on a lot of the mowing maintenance throughout the community. Library is proposing to add library materials, to purchase a bookmobile, which would increase access to some of the neighborhoods that don't have time or the availability to come down to the library, so it would bring the library to them and increase access to them. It would also include the purchase of additional reading kits and as part of the homework program. And for the police department, there's a number of improvements that need to be done to the police department building. It has a number of significant repairs that need to be done, but this focuses on some of the high priority ones, including the locker room for the female officers, restroom improvements, and some other efficiencies that just need to be done in order to maintain operations. Some of the service enhancements, I've mentioned some of these already, but improved maintenance and safety enforcement in city parks, reinvestment in Police Activities League with additional staff, proactive code enforcement, the library programs I mentioned, as well as fire prevention and suppression services. So moving on to the general fund. The general fund does have a number of proposed staffing increases for the council's consideration tonight. One would be a half-time office assistant for the city clerk's office. The other would be a supervising plans examiner for community development. This is an opportunity for us to look at ways that we can streamline and provide better efficiencies for how we process all the development coming through the community development department. We contract out a lot of that work with CSG Consulting through an outside plan check review. We think we can in-house that work, reduce our contract, and be able to better control timelines and efficiencies and quality of work. And so that position would be largely cost recovered as part of our development fees. For Pinto Lake, I think many of the council are aware that the concessionaire we had out of Pinto Lake for many years passed away recently. As part of that, we've had to reconsider how we operate the park. And working with Ana Espinoza and the Parks and Community Services Department, they've recommended that they in-house those operations for the next year. As part of that, there's some additional staff required. That includes the park maintenance worker and the recreation specialist. The goal for the Pinto Lake program is to increase access to the community again, look for ways that we can update and invest back into the Pinto Lake Park, and find ways that we can, as best we can, have those additional positions cost recovered based on the revenues that we collect through facility rentals and RV rentals. So we'll monitor that program over the next year and report back as that work moves forward. Again, for the general fund, under the cannabis funding, we have the life safety officer and the positions I mentioned previously. For general fund expenses by department, you can see a quick snapshot in front of you, broken down by all of these departments. These numbers are in the thousands and shows you a quick breakdown across all of our general fund departments. Some good news. I know fire department overtime has been a big topic for the city and for the council for the last several budgets. I'm happy to report that through the hard work of the fire department and close work with the fire chief and our firefighters, that overtime number has been brought down significantly. And you can see the number in front of you. For 2016, 2017, that is the net amount that we now have year to date in terms of fire overtime, which is a significant decrease. That's obviously relieved a major burden on the general fund, and it was an important step that we've been working on for many years, and we're happy to report that success. Future PERS changes continue to be a major concern for staff. It's a conversation we've had with the council over the last several budget conversations. The change in the retirement formula to reduce the smoothing period from a rolling 30 years to a fixed 25 years has resulted in some steep increases over the next 5 years. The increase in longevity of members, folks are living longer. We have less people paying into the system that are now than are in retirement. That makes it more difficult to sustain the program. And at the same time, PERS is looking at their discount rate, and their discount rate is basically what they expect to have returns back on their investments. When they lower what they think they'll get back on returns on investments, that means that cities have to make up the difference. And cities all over California are struggling with how to come up with the additional cost based on PERS most recent updates. And frankly, some cities are worried about bankruptcy for fear of not being able to cover the additional costs. Let's see. Here's a quick snapshot showing you how those numbers are going to change over that full smoothing period. You can see that there's a major ramp up beginning in next year and running through the next 5 years. We anticipate that we will be spending an additional approximately $6 million over the next 5 years in PERS cost. And when you consider the fact that our general fund budget has grown by $2 million this year over last year, that's a difficult number for us to keep up with. And so it's definitely something that the council should be concerned about. It's something that staff is monitoring very closely and that we have to take seriously. Sales tax trends from 2011 to 2018, you can see the snapshot there. Sales tax revenues have been growing between 2 to 3% per year. It's a positive trend. It has been incremental. We've been working very hard to attract additional businesses and look for ways that we can grow that sales tax trend. It's something that hasn't been a focus for many years, and we're trying to redevelop our economic development program and look for ways that we can grow that sales tax trend to grow those revenues over the coming years. Again, property tax has also been growing. It's been growing at a rate of 1 to 2%, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of inventory in Santa Cruz County as well as Watsonville. The rise in home prices make it difficult and price many folks out of the market. It is a positive trend that it's been growing, but again, it has been very limited growth. The general fund for fiscal year 17-18, you can see a quick breakdown here across all of our major revenue streams. You can see property taxes there. Other taxes includes sales tax, gas tax, UUT, TOT, many of the other taxes that we're collecting obviously make up a big chunk of our total revenues for the budget. So we continue to see signs of recovery. However, there are several areas where we've seen positive growth. That includes the general fund revenues being up $2 million, as I've mentioned earlier. There's been moderate growth in property, sales tax, and departmental revenues, which is all good news, but again, it has been slow but steady growth. We've seen increases in TOT, UUT, and Measure M revenues that are all in the works. Obviously, with the Measure D and the gas tax increases, we'll be having additional transportation funds coming into Watsonville, which is much needed. And so we're excited about that. And the residential and commercial development activity continues to be strong, and we expect that to continue over the next fiscal year. Some of the budget concerns that we want to reinforce include retirement costs. I mentioned this already, but pension costs will continue to go up. We have significant increases over the next 5-year period. You'll see the 5-year forecast that we have here in a minute, but it does show that in year 3 of that 5-year forecast that we will be running an operating deficit based on the increases in PERS costs. And that's something we're going to have to put some significant time into over the next 2-year period to solve for. Watsonville also has significant deferred facility, capital, parks, and equipment needs that have been deferred for many years. We obviously have come out of a long-term recession period where many of our staff had been in a furlough period for 10 years. During that time, all of our capital needs were put on hold and frozen during that time. Our buildings and facilities are now at a point where our maintenance cost continues to go up. It's kind of like replacing a road. If you allow the potholes to continue growing, you don't address those concerns. Rather than doing an overlay project, you're doing an entire road replacement. And we're running into that situation where the number of our community centers, our buildings, our city hall property across the street is in very poor condition, and no funds have really been allocated towards those needs for many years. Employee compensation is leading to attraction and retention issues. This is something you heard a little bit about earlier tonight. We have concerns that our employee compensation compared to many of the other market cities in the area could lead in the future to greater challenges with attracting and retaining quality staff. And so that's something we need to continue working on over the next year and working towards solutions. And then, of course, continuing to adequately fund our reserves. So here's the general fund 5-year projection. Again, you can see that in 2019, 2020, that we're running a deficit. That's largely due to the additional PERS costs kicking in year 3. That's something that we're going to have to work on. The deficit that you see for 2017, 2018 is largely due to the reappropriation of capital projects that were not completed in the last fiscal year. We're carrying those forward. And so the excess deficit you see there is related to those capital projects. Moving on to our enterprise fund operations. Here's a quick snapshot of all of our enterprise funds, from sewer, water, to our fiber optic fund. We continue to have a significant focus on infrastructure investment, and so you'll see there that the shortfall is attributed to our departments dipping into our reserves to go after a number of our infrastructure needs in the sewer, water, airport and solid waste. We're working towards replacing our vehicles, working on our water infrastructure, and really trying to get after a number of the deferred maintenance needs that we have. The airport fund is continuing to grow in a positive direction. The airport director, Rayvon Williams, has been working very hard over the past couple of years and over this past year to look for ways to grow the airport's bottom line, to really operate the airport enterprise as a business. The airport revenues are budgeted to meet the expenses for the fiscal year. The airport's advance from the general fund is $3.675 million. And the airport's audited cash balance at the end of fiscal year 15-16 was at almost $700,000. And again, Rayvon should get the credit on this. He's been working very hard on attracting new businesses to the airport property, working on new leases, negotiating tough negotiations of increasing some of our lease terms and our rentals that we have on the airport, including looking for ways, as we did with the old World War II barracks on the property, of ways that we can repurpose some of the older properties. There are some proposed staff increases for the enterprise funds, and that starts with an admin assistant for the airport to support all of the work that's going on out at the airport. For the engineering and utilities administration, we have a senior construction inspector, a 3/4 time environmental ED assistant. For water, we're proposing a water services technician 1 and a water operator 2. For the solid waste collection, we're looking at 2 utility worker 1s and an integrated waste worker. This is all in response to these programs growing and an increase in demand. These are again covered within the utility operations through the revenues we collect through the rates for these operations, and are needed based on, again, the demand for services. So other funds, as we look at the gas tax fund, again, very exciting news that our friends in the state legislature were able to agree finally on a transportation bill. As a result of that, we anticipate an additional $600,000 for this next fiscal year, and that's going to grow to about $1 million going forward each year. That'll come back to us locally for local transportation improvements. That'll be on top of the Measure D transportation funding that's coming in. And so those are very welcomed and needed investments in our transportation infrastructure. You heard the update on the Measure G fund this evening. The library operational budget is balanced. However, we need to continue looking at the tapering off of some of the funding that we're receiving for the library. Carol, our library director, can speak to that more later tonight if you wish. But she's already been working towards making changes in anticipation of some of those cuts in funding. But it is an area of concern and an area that we need to work on. And our insurance fund is balanced. So here's a quick snapshot of the special revenue funds. Some of the gas taxes we will be updating based on the additional revenues that will be coming in. So we'll be bringing those updates as part of the mid-year. But we have built in the additional revenues coming in for Measure D. Here's a quick Measure G snapshot. This was brought up earlier this evening, but we do have net reserves that are in excess of the 10% requirement. That's largely due to planned equipment purchases for the fire department. Once those purchases go through, you will see that reserve fall down to the 10% requirement. And it's really just setting money aside in anticipation of those big purchases. So that concludes our presentation tonight. We're happy to answer any questions that the council might have, and I appreciate your time.
Public hearing. Questions from the members? Okay, let's move to public hearing. Any members of the public that would like to address us, please come forward. Thank you very much. We will close the public hearing and come to city council questions. Mr. Hertz.
If we could go back to slide 6, your slide 6 for a moment, and gosh, I'm overwhelmed by the public comment here. I know that we're going to get slammed later on about the budget and how it's not big enough and the needs are too much. I just wanted to point out for historians in the audience and viewing at home that 2011 was kind of a dark year. That was the year I returned to the city council after being termed out in 98, I think it was. And so you can see that there has been some improvements in that, even though I'm probably in decline, just for historic purposes.
Thank you for the comment. Ms. Garcia.
Go on. Okay, fine. First, I want to say that I really appreciate the organizational charts, the pictures, and the more detailed description of the goals and accomplishments for each department that I had not seen in the past. So I appreciate that. And I want to thank Bill and Matt for meeting with me to answer budget questions. And I also communicated with Charles, Natalie, Susie, Carol, and Anna. So I asked a lot of questions. However, tonight I'm only going to ask 4 questions because I'm sure my colleagues also have lots of questions. Question number 1. This is on page 49, special revenues. There's a deficit for housing. And my question is what is the percentage of developers that pay fees as opposed to building affordable housing?
I'm going to ask Acting Community Development Director Susie Merriam to come up.
Thank you for the question. So let me just make sure I have it clear. You're looking at what percentage of developers of new housing provide affordable units?
Versus paying fees.
Okay. I would have to get back to that or get back to you on that for well, I think I can answer it actually. For ownership development, developers are required to ownership development over 7 years, 7 units. The developers are required to provide affordable units based on our affordable housing ordinance. Due to case law in 2009 and later, rental projects are no longer required to provide affordable units, nor are they required to pay an inclusionary housing fee unless the city has done a nexus or linkage study that indicates what the fee essentially should be to provide inclusionary units on the city side or to fund additional affordable housing units. So in July, we're planning to bring an RFP proposal to the council so that we can have that linkage study done and continue to charge an inclusionary housing fee for rental projects. But right now, we are not allowed by law to charge that.
But I asked the question because I was sure I had read something from the city that said that for developers, they had a choice of housing or paying fees. Did I read that wrong?
In rental,
not rental. I thought it was for ownership.
I know that in my tenure here, we have required the provision of affordable units. We have not actually done an in lieu fee for any of the ownership projects.
And do we have something in writing that says that?
Well, we've got our affordable housing ordinance, and then
See, that's what I thought I had read.
like I said, since I've been working at the city over 15 years, the projects that I'm aware of have actually provided affordable units
Okay.
rather than
I'm glad.
doing paying
Okay.
the fee.
Thank you. I'm glad. Okay, my next question, this is on page 158. And this is regarding the finance strategy statement. And in that statement, it says, quote, decrease reliance on reserve funds. So my question is, you did mention earlier what our reserves are now, but I wondered how much have we spent and what did we spend it on from our reserve funds?
We actually have been building the reserve funds the last 2 years, so we really haven't been relying on them. We have been building them instead of spending on them.
So we didn't use it, because when I
No,
read.
We've been able to
the-
operate on operating revenue
Good,
company.
good. Okay, good. Because when I read decrease reliance on reserve funds, I thought, well, then we're using the reserve fund.
Well, yeah, that was to decrease that we have. That was one of our goals, and we have, as you can see, back in 2011, the reserves were disappearing, but we have been able, and then also in 2014, we had to use reserves to pay back the state almost $4 million.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but
By the way,
now,
where are we in getting that money back?
We are slowly getting that back through the successor agency. We have to do a special calculation each year to see how much we're allowed to, and hopefully within the next 3 years, we should have it all back.
Good, okay. My next question is, I saw in different departments a line item that was called charges out interdepartment. What does that mean?
It's just a funding resource, just say on the page 159 right next to that, you will see different charges for like the successor agency fund. That is charging like my time and my staff's time to that fund. Even though our costs are in this one, we do a lot of work for the public trust fund, the successor agency, so we charge some of our time to them and get reimbursed for it that way.
Gotcha. Okay. And my final question is, this is on page 325. And it's on capital improvements. And I see that we have over 2 million in unfunded projects that are basic needs, such as body cameras, Ramsey Park Youth Center gym floor, Pinto Lake Park restrooms, Callahan Park fire sprinklers, and on and on. And so my question is, can we consider refinancing or selling city property to pay for some of these projects?
So the short answer to that is it would be limited in terms of our opportunities for selling properties, but what we are doing is we are exploring a number of other options that we would have available to us. That includes refinancing some of the debt we have that has a higher interest rate. And with interest rates being so low, we think we could save in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for some of the debt service we have in place. The city manager and I have also been exploring with bond consultants opportunities to look at bond financing to get after some of the capital projects you see in front of you. The number.
Excuse me, but in terms of bonds, I thought we had reached our limit already in terms of more taxing.
This would not be a tax like the local district tax that you're referring to, Councilmember Garcia. Those are sales tax that we are capped at 2%. We'd be looking at ways that we could look at a revenue bond, for example, where we would, as the city, would have to cover the bond payment on that. It would not be an additional tax like Measure M or Measure G, for example.
Okay, that concludes my questions.
Okay, other questions? You have something?
Okay.
Ms. Gomez?
Alrighty then. I do just want the public to know that after spending an entire day during the memorial break, spending over these 300 some odd pages, and then sitting with staff for at least a couple hours, fine tuning what's going on in terms of the revision and the material for the presentation, a few things that I still want to make sure I pointed out. For the 2016, where we're seeing this general fund, how much of this is a repayment from the airport?
Annually, the airport has been paying $450,000.
And what's left on the terms for the payments from the airport that will be going into the general fund here?
Yeah, it was almost 3.7 million that they owe.
So about 400 a year, 3.7,
Yeah,
we've
so
got
it's
about 9 years or so. So we can only expect to have that almost $500,000 roughly for the next 7 years or so for us to rely on the general fund as it's being repaid. I'm just wanting to make sure that when we see that, we bumped it up because we're getting the money in, and that bump won't always be there because it's a payment of debt from the airport to the general fund. So we need to make sure that the public's aware that while we have that up there, it's really just going to be up there on a temporary basis until it's recovered from other sources of funds going into our general fund budget. I also want to revisit a little bit more between the CalPERS, making sure that the public's fully aware of this. Right now, we're spending about $1.25 million annually out of our $40 million budget for the general fund revenue. And we will be seeing this to go up to about 3.25% of our general fund revenue in 2 years' time. Is that about right?
Gonna go.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm just doing my mouth.
Gonna go more than that. In 5 years is when it's really gonna start hitting the city very hard.
So can we tell the community what percentage of our general fund will have an impact of our CalPERS hit at that time?
Yes, we can figure that number out, and we will bring that percentage hit for the general fund, Councilmember Kaufman Gomez, at the next meeting.
Okay.
One point I neglected to mention as part of the initial presentation, we are looking for ways that we could try to mitigate some of the costs related to the increases in the unfunded actuarial liability payment. CalPERS does provide an opportunity to pre-fund that, so rather than paying it in monthly installments, if you can handle the cash flow, you can make the payment, I believe it's 3.5 million upfront, which saves us the interest, and that'll save us about 125,000 overall by making that payment ahead of time. It's a small amount compared to our total PERS cost, but it is one way that we can try to mitigate some of the total hit.
Yeah, because one of the questions that I had in my notes on is this is going to more than double what we're proposing in the budget to increase the general fund expenditure for this. And then again, will we have a full presentation about the course of action to take care of that?
Mayor, Council, I also want to add in something that I mentioned to the mayor earlier today, that we were notified last week that the annual income earned by CalPERS last year was 0.8%.
Oof.
So that gives you an idea of the severity of how this is going to impact us over the next 5 years.
And just to add to that, we anticipate there being significant conversations at the state level with CalPERS, with
Yes.
cities across California on this topic. We're not the only ones struggling with it. Some cities are in much worse shape than we are. Really, it's going to require a structural change to the way CalPERS operates. And again, in addition to the other changes they've made, they've changed their investment, the way they've structured their investments, which is also impacting what City Manager Montoya was mentioning. So it's going to be a big process. We will be having lots more conversations with the council about this.
Has there been conversation with the League of Cities about this on what we can encourage as a group effort at the state level?
Yes, there are. In fact, I believe they're forming a special subcommittee just to work on the PERS increases.
Yeah, I know that we're not the only ones out there with this problem, and there's no need to finance the debt that we can't handle. It's going to be a big play. It's going to be a big play when it comes to our union contracts we're renegotiating. couple years out, maybe we're fine, but when that hits and the budgets are going up and we have no other revenue sources coming in, we need to figure out how that's going to be remedied somehow. I've also, let's see, are we maximizing the CPI for the rented properties? Have all of the properties been evaluated for the income revenue to make sure that they're all up to date with what we should be receiving for market rates?
Are you referring to all of our rental properties, all of our commercial rental properties?
Yeah, I know, yes, I'm calling to that. I know that the airport has their list of properties that they're doing, and I believe that they're fully occupied and that there's been a full evaluation that's taken place on the CPI that we're getting on those. I know we have some vacancies on the city. I don't know what our vacancy factor is, but when have we made sure we've done what we needed to do on the CPI for the rent we should be collecting?
So Councilmember Kaufman Gomez, it varies from lease agreement to lease agreement, whether there's a built-in CPI that's automatically applied each year. So that does vary. I can tell you that a number of the commercial retail spaces we have in the downtown area, in fact, we have 2 in this Civic Plaza building. We have 1 in our Beach Street garage. We've been working very closely with the tenants to ensure that they're paying market rate rents for those properties. We're working with Ruben Hellick with Cushman Wakefield to list those properties and ensure that we are collecting market rent for those. We want to ensure that we're not subsidizing those properties. We've received feedback from businesses in the downtown area that were concerned that we were artificially deflating the market by doing so. And it's our goal to really bring all of those up to market rate and manage them as a business.
And now I think would be a time to suggest if we could look at, I know that the downtown projects, for example, I'm getting a lot of people questioning the plaza and the capital improvement of the plaza, but it's the chicken and the egg where we know we need it, people will step forward, but we also need to make sure we have a plan. Can we make sure that we see that we have funds available that we can put together for those plans when we adopt this budget from maybe some of our business development funds of some sort? So we have a plan that we can then go out and market and leverage to go ahead and get the capital improvement projects going. I know in light of the 150th, there's going to be a lot more activity that we're expecting. And if we have these improvements, I think it will enhance what we can do to present ourselves to the community when we bring those projects in and events downtown. Can we make sure that we can look and get that put together?
So if it's the council's direction to reallocate some funds for some of the plaza and the bandstand, I think is what part of what you're referring to.
The bandstand is one of the items, yes.
If that's the council's direction, we could certainly look at that. I would just reiterate that we have a number of other unfunded capital needs as well. And so maybe one way we could get at that is as the Quincentennial Committee continues to work on what the priority projects will be as part of the 150th celebration, we could come back with a full budget to look at, and I think the plaza could be part of that. And at that point, we could try to look at options of where potential funding sources might come.
Mayor, Council, if I may add to that, Mr. Huffaker has been working with several donors within the community that are willing to step forward and provide funding for that. So I know that we've been working with community development to get general architectural estimates on what that number is. So that's something we need to do that's very basic cost that we got to do first. And once we know what the cost is, then we can find out how many people are going to donate for it. And they've already said we've already got like 2 or 3 people that want to donate, and then see where the difference is.
Yeah, I certainly agree that the community will step up to the plate on this, but I know that it's our responsibility to have what that plan is going to look like, and that's where our commitment comes from, to engage in, to show them what it is that we need, and then they know what they're going to expect for cost incurred for the community to come in. And I think there's other things that can be very complementary that way, that offers us a chance to leverage and bring the community in and feel like that they've really contributed, and name on a plaque or whatever it's going to take to get some of that funding. We have community that will step up.
We agree, and we've been really careful about how we proceed with the bandstand in particular, because we know that it's a hallmark of the community. It's often used as one of the icons when you see logos and marketing of Watsonville. And so we want to ensure that as upgrades to that happen, they're done right in a way that preserves the history for the plaza.
Yes, and I think that the majority of my questions outside of these that were important for us to make sure are made public have been addressed. I know you're making some revisions to this, and I look forward to seeing those as we've discussed earlier.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
To add on to something that Mr. Huffaker mentioned earlier, you all may recall about a year and a half ago, staff came to council and said, okay, first thing we need to do is refinance the debt that's out there from the old redevelopment agency because it was 2 percentage points higher than what we're paying. So now we got that leverage off. The big one was the city stepped forward and worked with PWMA, and we had all their debt on our books, and that was refinanced, and Steve and his staff and finance worked to get that off our books. So where we're at now is the city over the next month or two is going to go through a credit rating process, which will allow us to get a determination in the marketplace on what our ability and our interest rates would be for the city if we were to do any revenue bonds, those type of things. And what Mr. Huffaker, myself, and finance have been looking at is we do have a few other items out there that we need to refinance for sure. Some of them are bank notes, which are different than other bonded debt, but also working with utilities, we have several infrastructure needs that we need to fix. I mean, between the Ramsey Park, between the police station, between the fire stations, we have all this stuff that we have to do. And what we're really doing is putting a bunch of Band-Aids on a lot of our facilities. And it's costing us a lot of money annually. We've got to figure out a way to issue some sort of revenue bond to take care of this debt. And that would be including at some point in time, I know Ms. Bilishich, is really curious and wants to worry about a third fire station. But the thing about it is we don't have the money to buy land. We don't have the money to build to go vertical. And we definitely don't have money to do firefighters. But at some point, we need to find money to purchase a piece of land so that in the future, as land gets more expensive, we do it now. So these are things we need to look at now in the next 4 to 5 months. And we will be coming back to you all so that you all are brought into this process because it's important. We know Anna is trying to do the Ramsey Field and they need $2 million. Senior Center is falling apart. I mean, we have some issues that we've got to deal with.
To dovetail on Mr. Montoya's comments, just real quick too, one other thing in addition to what he mentioned, we're also doing is looking at ways we could redevelop our properties. And the council knows we've been exploring those opportunities and continue to for redevelopment, potential redevelopment of the City Hall project. And so where possible, while we're not necessarily looking at sale of city property, we are looking at ways that we can leverage the property we have for redevelopment.
Mr. Dutra.
And thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be brief. I have questions for Anna. Hi. You're like, surprise. I just wanted to see where we are. I know that you're getting 3 new people because of Measure M. So I don't know how you feel about that. Are you excited that you get at 3 additional hires? Because I know that, staffing is something that you've been concerned about. And
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor Rios and council members, Ana Espinosa, Parks and Community Services Department. We're very pleased with the additional funding that's available to us. As you can see, we have quite a team of my staff here who work on many projects on behalf of you and the community. With the Measure M funds, we're really looking at prevention programs, looking at safety in our parks, and looking at generating more revenue. And so the positions that were mentioned in the report earlier, what it involves is the quarter-time person is actually to increase hours for a recreation specialist to full-time, 10 more hours a week to serve Contigo families. Contigo is a wraparound program that really is based in a neighborhood to strengthen family and the opportunities for their children to thrive in our community. And that would allow us to serve between 20 or 25 more individuals. So that's what those funds will provide. In addition, in terms of revenue generation, with our facility rentals, we really have been working over the last couple of years to market those as best as we can so the community can utilize them and generate revenue at the same time to support our operations. And many of you may know Tony Roman. He's everywhere. We've got to give him some help, and that allows for a full-time center attendant because rentals happen every day of the week, all hours of the day, and we need to have staff there that can ensure that the customer is having a good event and it's safe and our facilities are being used appropriately. And then lastly, we have in our parks division, hiring a park maintenance worker will allow us to apply about 1,800 more hours of maintenance work in all of our facilities. Keep in mind that over the last 10 to 12 years, through a series of budget reductions, we've had to reduce maintenance. Where we used to do it weekly, now it's, twice a month, and the demands are great, and we want to be able to restore that for the benefit of the public, and I know we get, requests from council to do more and do it better, and we do what we can, and I think these funds will help us move in that direction.
Thank you. I know when the Measure M came up, this was Parks and Community Services was something that I was fighting for to make sure that it was on the ballot, that the money would go specifically, that you guys will get some, because I believe in your department. I'm thankful for what you all do for the kids in our community, as well as the adult kids. And, I think that I'm looking at the numbers here, and it looks like classes will be increasing over the years. Numbers are also increasing, and to me, that's positive. That means we're actually reaching out to the community and in the right way. So I'm glad that you're able to get the funds to continue to like you said get back to what the community is asking for and make sure that we're reaching all our goals. And so I want to say thank you, and I hope that these funds help. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments and on behalf of my staff as well.
Of course, definitely. Thank you. And I also wanted to say I'm very happy about the PAL getting a recreation specialist. Again, it's something that I work closely with PAL. They're in my district, and those kids. Thank you, Chief, and everybody that helps out with it, because I have seen such a difference in that part of the community and all the programs that this staff does. And let me tell you, the staff works so hard, and their pay is so little, but their heart is in this community, and I am so appreciative, PAL, and the police department. I mean, you guys, you're transforming this community, and so I'm glad that we're able to give something like this back to them. So thank you for having that in there. And could you email me the PERS increase slide when you have a chance? And okay, so my question was the property taxes. After all the homes come in that we've approved over 300 homes, I believe, in the last 3 years that I've been on the council, are those numbers incorporated into this slide?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Oh, God, I thought they'd go up a lot more than that.
Mayor, council, actually, if you look at the 100% of property tax, we probably get like 7%, 5%, compared to the county and the school district. County and the school district gets 90% of it.
How do we change that?
It also takes a few years for it to run through the process, so by the time it all trickles down, it ends up being less than you might think.
Okay, thank you for the not so positive news. Okay, on to the next. How many properties do we have on the market right now, the city? The rental market.
Councilmember Dutro, you're referring to
rental market.
Rental market. I believe we have, not including the airport, we have 3 properties in the downtown that are on the market that we own.
I could think of 4 though right now. Like there's 2 in this building, 1 in the cross street, and then the Porter building.
That's correct. The Porter building makes 4.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So we have 4 buildings that are currently on the market. Have we rented anything out in the last year or so?
Let me correct that real quick, if I may. The Porter building is not on the market.
A rental?
No, it is not on the market. We are actually working and trying to figure out what the capacity of the Porter building is, because there's severe water damage within it. So we have to figure out some sort of demolition to determine what the deterioration is, to figure out before we can even put a tenant in there. So that's not on the market.
For the Porter building, we've been working with a local architect to look at ways we could redesign the property to try to attract the right type of tenant, some type of restaurant tenant. For the other 3, one of them just became available in the last couple of months. We ended up moving one of the tenants that was in there out. For the other office space that's here, that was currently used formerly by Luis Alejo's office, that became available last year. And then the third property, the third space that's next to the subway in this building has never been filled. Part of the challenge for that is that the space was never completed when the building was constructed. It has no floor, and it requires significant investment for whoever wants to come in, and that's been a big deterrent.
So, in regard to the Porter building, when do we have a timeline when we're going to try to get it ready to rent?
Yes, in fact, we are close to finalizing the demo plans so that any prospective tenant would have a better idea of what the cost would be to basically bring the building to a vanilla envelope, as they like to call it, which is basically bringing it back down to the studs. With that information, we've already engaged Cushman & Wakefield to work on starting to reach out to some of the types of businesses like a craft brewery, like a restaurant that we think could activate the space, and we plan on doing that in the next couple of weeks.
Are we not going to put any investment into that building? Is it going to be up to the actual person renting it? Because I kind of got confused. I thought maybe we were going to do some work on it.
Yep, Mayor, Council, going back to the prior discussion when we talked about coming back to council later about facility investments, those types of things, the Portal building will be one of those that may be included in that list so that we can kind of refurbish and bring it to some standard so that we can not only look at the bottom level for potential retail or restaurant, but also the upper floors for office space, those type of things. And Mr. Huffaker's been working on that, so.
And the council will remember with the recent lease over at the airport, the 45 Aviation project, there's lots of ways to structure it. You could do it with decreased rent. You could do it with deferred rent to help cover some of the initial investment. So we'll see how
that's
those
attractive.
we'll see how those negotiations go.
Well, do we have an idea of when the capital money would be coming in for this, or is this something that's a dream?
Mayor, Council, it's definitely not a dream, but we have to work on our credit rating first, which takes a couple of months, and then we have to figure out the refinancing some of the debt that's out there, and then bring a plan back to council. So if I have to anticipate, you will probably see something from us in August.
Okay. Oh, then that's pretty close.
August, September, yeah.
Okay, great. I was thinking maybe 2 years. I'm like, well, geez, we're gonna have another empty for 2 more years.
Well, some
But
of
August is a lot
the best
closer.
projects start as a dream. So
Yes. Oh, God. Well, I just want to say thank you, Bill and Matt. I had a bunch of questions that you guys answered in a private meeting. So I want to say thank you for all the hard work that you put into this thing.
Okay, Ms. Belisich.
Well, I too want to thank the two of you for meeting with me because I know that I always have lots of questions, and whether we get through the budget or not, I can get on one topic and say where we're going, but you always listen and try and find answers, and I appreciate that. I have to say this budget with the PERS increase is a huge concern, I think, for all of us, and I'm glad that the city is trying to figure out a way to address it. I don't think it's just our city. I think it's all cities, school districts, anybody that has PERS. How do you pay for these things when employees expect it to be paid for, and where do you get the money? So it's a major concern. I commend the fire department for reducing the overtime. I think that's a big deal. And I know you have to change your staffing and work people different shifts and everything else, but it's very positive. So that's great. Thank you for your help. But then, of course, the third fire station, I'll never give up on that. We've talked and talked and talked about it for numerous years, and I'm glad to see that you're talking about at least buying a piece of property at some point, because that's where it starts. We need a piece of property. We need a piece identified. I had this conversation in 2008 with somebody at that time saying, the market's low, let's go get a piece of property, at least if we had the property. Not that you have to build it tomorrow, but, and then, the analysis, do we need an actual fire station, or do we need a paramedic station, or what do we need? But I think the first thing is securing a piece of property. And I'm glad to see that you are looking at that seriously, and hope that comes in sooner than later. Overall, I think that, you two have done a great job with the budget. It's not easy. Money is not easy, and there's never enough. And no matter how much there is, it's never enough. And we have a healthy reserve. In looking at the reserves, we're not as good as, say, Morgan Hill, but we're just a little bit better than Salinas. But still, having that's a hefty reserve. 21%. It looks pretty good. Usually it's 3%, 10%. So it's great to see that there's a positive, healthy reserve right now. And I know there are all kinds of expenditures, and I think it's good that we do look at our infrastructure. The senior center, we've talked about that a lot, Ramsey Park. I mean, there's numerous facilities that need help. And I think we're going to end up addressing them one by one. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. There are a couple comments that I had still left on my plate here. One is, I know that we have our investments with LAIF, which is probably 1/4%. So what we do have for investments, I'm not sure how much revenue we've got in that savings for that particular investment. And I'm not looking at going to risk with it, but 1/4% prime lending rate. Do we have alternatives of what money we do have in those accounts rather than that particular amount of return under the LAIF? So I wanted to know a little bit more about that. And the other thing too is, let's ask the community. There are service organizations that are out here. If the city were to put a wish list of things together that says, maybe a Rotary Club can come and do this particular project, or the Seroptimist, or Lions Club, or something to do with the service of maybe the youth of some sort. Don't overlook the fact that we have a lot of people in this community that would be very proud to be able to do a project that the city may need that doesn't cost a lot on the CPI, the capital improvement side, but can engage the community to do these projects in conjunction with this wish list that the city has on these repairs and items. And I know liabilities in there and whatnot, but there are some simple items that could be addressed as a wish list for things that can be given to the community to participate with and feel good about it. So I'm hoping that when we come back, that you can provide us with something that would look that way. And because as a service, for me, representing a service club as well, we always look for projects in the community. For example, we participated in getting that firehouse painted. That was a $15,000 capital project, and we leveraged 10 to cover the difference on it and engage the community. And there's a lot of pride in people that participated in something like that to improve and beautify what the city has here. So don't overlook the fact that we have people in our community willing to do that. So LAIF is one. The community investment is the other. I'd like to also perhaps see something with the conversation about our nonprofit, our parks nonprofit. I don't know where you are with that, with the money coming in, with what you're fundraising to do, to go ahead and offset some of the improvement items that you do have a wish list for the parks. I'd like to know a little bit more about what that is, how much you've got going out there, what projects you've given that nonprofit to sort of look for achieving for some of the financial goals for it. So I think we need to think outside the box on some of these things that are like splattered on the wall a little bit, but let's expand on some of these things that aren't part of a hard copy black and white document, but can still help us with our needs here in the community.
Thank you. Mr. Hertz?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, while Rayvon's still here, I just want to make sure we cover the airport adequately. I'm looking at page number 7. This is, and while we're on that page, everybody can review the principal property taxpayers, and I think that's an interesting fact. And of course, on the page 6, you've got the principal employers, and I think that's interesting for the public as well. But I see under the airport departments, we have 9.1 employees, full-time equivalents, yet on the chart on page 77, flipping from page 7 to 77, it's 8. Am I missing 1.1?
Yes, this is a draft with the 9.1 is a carryover. We've had one employee resign. We've brought in an administrative assistant. We've got some openings based on some changes, and so you're gonna see that number reflect. But in the budget numbers that we presented, all of the headcounts are accounted for.
Thank you. I can't imagine anybody resigning from the airport.
Hard to believe, but it
Well,
happens.
they must have had an awful good offer somewhere. How about the, back on page 7 again, the estimated based aircraft, 350, is that
That's
pretty
correct.
accurate?
That's correct.
How about the annual flight operations? I see 100,000 listed here, but when I turn to page 79, I see 55,000 operations.
55,000 is a correct number. The 100,000 is a carryover. Once again, just as the documents put together, what do we have last year? But the 55,000 is accurate.
Thank you for your accuracy. When I look through the capital improvements pages and think about the airport, I think about, runway expansion, and that's probably a big dream, but that might provide some kind of economic self-sufficiency and self-improvement, as the document on page 79 refers to multiple times: self-sustaining, self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and reducing debt service. Is there any vision or plan or hope or dream of 800 feet of runway extension that might allow more commercial activity to take place?
Yes, there is always a hope and a dream. We're big on hope and dreams. So there is more than one way to extend the runway. The most obvious way, of course, is the area on the airport layout plan now that calls for another 680 feet. So just so we're keeping our numbers in sync, and that's about a $2.5 to $3 million effort. The $2.5 to $3 million effort, 90% of that comes from the federal government. So the FAA isn't going to give us $3 million unless they are really sure that all the hoops have been jumped through. So there's numbers that have to deal with, you have to have volumes, you have to have the right type of aircraft, you have to have the right type of mix. They're necessarily going to give you, not just going to give you money to extend the runway because you want to. They don't subscribe to the, if you build it, they will come. It has to be the reverse. You have to prove to them that the capability is there. So that's an effort that we have determined it's doable, but it's probably going to take us some time. And some time is anywhere between 4 and 5 years, because you need data to show that you have a certain type of aircraft with a certain type of mix and a certain type of operations. So fortunately for us, we've been counting aircraft since 2013. So I'm putting together a plan to try to make a case for that. The other way to extend the runway is to move the goalpost. So our runway is 4,500 feet long. That's the actual distance of the runway. But only 3,900 feet of it can be used for landing. It's called a displaced threshold. So there's a line there that defines a slope, and you have to land beyond that line. So you lose basically 600 feet of runway because you just can't use it. We can move that line to the end of the runway if we do some underground utility movement. So I've talked to PG&E, and I've determined that the poles along Buena Vista, that those utility poles, about 20 of them, could be put underground for a cost. The FAA will fund that cost, and that cost is substantially less than building another 600 feet of runway. And it takes less time to do that. So we're looking into making that happen. I was on the phone today with Sacramento, the ATC people, trying to make some changes to how aircraft depart the runway in low visibility conditions. That's more important to commercial operators than having runway, because certain type of jets need certain type of procedures. So we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes to try to make up for the chance of that runway extension. The probability, 30%. The chance of moving the goalpost, probably about 70%. The timing of doing the goalpost moving, probably 3 to 4 years. The chance of getting a runway extension, it's a good 5 to 7 years. That's just the truth.
Mayor, Council, if I may, Raven and I work together on this like every week, all the time. So, I just want to make sure we all understand the reality of the situation. Even if he wants to extend the runway 680 feet, you still got a nice little tar plant you're going to have to deal with. You got some other issues you have to deal with. And in regards to the goalpost, that's going to be a longer process, because if you lower the PG&E lines, you're going to have to work with the county, because now you're flying or taking off above houses, and you're going to have some serious issues and complaints. So just so you all know the issues that are out there trying to get this thing resolved, and Rayvon's trying to do his best to do it.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear the discussion on this and the future hopes and dreams and plans. Before we leave this subject, how are legal fees accounted for? I don't see that in any of the expenditures. How does, we've had some legal fees associated with the airport. How are those handled?
Well, for the airport, I do budget, I mean, at a baseline, I do require legal counsel and advice, and I've received good counsel. And so over the course of my 5 years, I do set aside dollars for legal counsel. I mean, when I pick up the phone, the clock does start, and that's understandable. And so I do set aside funds for that. But on occasions, there are times in which we split legal costs with other groups. So Susie and I may have an issue that we're working in a pilot scenario, and we'll sit down and we'll determine what the split is going to be. A good example of that is the airport land use planning document. Clearly a part of that is city planning, but clearly a part of it's the airport. I wouldn't expect Susie to pay for all of that, and so what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll come up with an agreement and we'll split that cost.
And Mayor, Council, if I may add to that. So Mr. Ravon is correct on those instances where it's a daily occurrence and advice and working through some of these projects. That's correct. When we're looking at a litigation piece, litigations that's sitting out there, a lot of that right now is being borne by the general fund, and it's not putting back on the airport at this point in time.
Thank you.
One other point I would like to add, when it comes to the airport, over the next 5 years, we've committed. Last July, I sat down with the FAA and I said, look, we've been working at this for a time period, this being the capital improvements for the airport. And I have a city council that really has an expectation that the federal government is going to live up to the mandate of supporting this regional asset. I want to make sure that I'm not picking up the wrong rock. So tell me the types of things that you believe that the FAA will easily support and giving us money to do those types of things. And they made it very clear. You must have a runway and an infrastructure there that will last between 15 and 20 years. We will give you money for that. So over the next 3 to 4 years, they're going to resurface both primary runways. They're going to restripe them. They're going to fill the cracks. They're going to give us new signage. They're going to give us a lot of stuff that will draw many of the larger aircraft to the airport. We won't have pieces of pavement failing. They're also going to put in the approach lights. That happens this summer. We're also going to look at additional instrument landing capabilities that are satellite-based that don't cost us anything. So they're looking at infrastructure that will make us as competitive with a Salinas, a Monterey, and a San Jose as we can expect for an environment that doesn't have a control tower. And that comes to about $6 million, and that we're going to have to pay about 5% of that. And I fully expect that that's happened, and I've put them in reports for both Matt and Charles. Bill and I have looked at them, and they're in the budget, and we're moving in that direction.
So Trump is not touching the money?
Well, not that I know of. I mean, the biggest concerns that the pilots have now is they're going to go to the run-up area, and they're going to get ready to fly to L.A., and when they get their clearance, they're going to be asked for a credit card number. So what used to be a free ATC service, you may have to, if you're talking to ATC or you're talking to file a flight plan, you might have to pay $1, $2, $5, and that's a big concern.
Please.
We won't get any of it.
Well, I think we've come a long way with the airport, and thank you very much, Ravon, and we look forward to more discussions and more participation from our friends at the federal level.
Always happy to talk.
Thank you.
That all your questions?
I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Garcia, yes.
Yeah, this is actually based on the comment that Mr. Edie made. And so my question is, do we have in our budget, or have we budgeted our general plan development? And if we don't have it in a budget, is that what's holding us back from developing a general plan?
Mayor, Council, if I may answer that. At this point in time, we do not have the general plan funds in the budget. We're looking at about $400,000 to $500,000 additional one-time money for a plan, and that plan would take us approximately 2.5 years to complete that plan. There's a lot of pieces working. We have completed the airport land use compatibility plan, which is a requirement to go into the next general plan. We do have a currently existing 2005 general plan that is valid, but as far as building in the zones 1 through 5, it is not. So as we move forward, we're going to start looking at individual plans like for the downtown area and other areas of the city, which are going to be slightly lesser cost. But we will get back to the general plan. We'll have to do an RFP, but it is a long process and it's an expensive process, and it is not in this budget at this time.
And so just to help me understand better, when you say we're going to have like a downtown plan and different plans, do those different plans, will they eventually come together to become a general plan?
Mayor, Council, that is correct. As we move forward, we're looking at some of the major issues that occurred with the 2030 plan. Part of it was the traffic pattern plan and also the annexation of the Buena Vista area. And that's primarily where the pilots started objecting, and Caltrans pulled us into the lawsuit with that. That was the Buena Vista annexation. So as we look at these individual plans moving forward for development, it's the hope that all these little pieces, one or two, whatever they are, will be rolled into the overall general plan. So we'll do small pieces at a time to pick off small costs. So when we get to the larger one, it's not going to be a larger cost.
Okay. I want to thank you for the work that's been done. I have also, met and had questions, and since we're going to come back, I have small questions that I can deal with you in terms of the document that we got, and just had to do with some language. But I wanted to ask you one bigger question on the debt. I was concerned on the debt. After I'm trying to understand it, because it just seems like on the bonds, and all the debt that we have. Can you explain more of that? Because we have, on the bonds and debts, and there's a whole section. And definitely, if and now I see why those bonds lend you money. They sure make a lot of money from us and from cities. But can you let us know then, tell me, are we on track with all this debt?
Yeah, the city really doesn't have very much debt compared to any other city. We are in very good shape. A lot of our enterprise funds, almost all of their revenue bonds have been paid off. There's just, I think, 2 years payments in one of the funds, and all their revenue bonds. We do have new projects which will be financed, but we're really in good shape. The general fund really has no general obligation debt. We have a couple of leases which are spread out through all the different funding sources. And then we also have the tax allocation refunding debt, but that's being paid through the old RDA tax property that we receive. So the city is in really good shape on debt.
Okay, good. There's you talked about the CDBGs. Are we still going to be get CDBGs, or is it going to be cut?
I can talk just briefly to that, Mayor, and then if you want more details, Susie Merriam can add to that. But CDBG has been decreasing, and we anticipate that again, that's a federal funded program, and we anticipate that those funds will continue to decrease going forward. That's been the trend, and that's been the signal from the feds in terms of our total CDBG allocation.
Because I know there's a section, where it says notes to be paid with community development grants for the next 20 years. But we don't know that, right?
No, Mayor, Council, if I may. I think that there's a whole lot of these things that are mixed up in there, and there are some assumptions based upon those cities and states that are sanctuary that the federal government may take those away, and they may. We don't know. We have not gotten any signal yet. I mean, we still do have money in the police department for the COPS grants that are coming from the federal government, from Homeland Security. We have no idea yet. The CDBG funds have been decreasing for the last 5 years nationwide. They've been allocating to education programs or other things throughout the United States. So we know we're going to be getting less and less, but we don't know if they're going to go away altogether. We have no idea.
I know that, we don't have a redevelopment agency, but we do mention budget appropriation. By what funds?
We have the successor agency, which is paying off the old RDA loans, which city manager mentioned we just refinanced. And then we have the housing fund, which is fund in the 204. And it is all the old home, the 20% loans that we had, we were transferred them over, and the council accepted to take care of those. So we have two different fundings that are the old RDA that we both keep here, and the city is still dealing with both of them.
Okay, thank you. I know you mentioned that, it's mentioned that Sotomayor Soccer Field has $1,487,000, is that correct?
In regards to the Ramsey Park Sotomayor soccer field, in the park development funds in the budget, there is approximately a little over 1.4 million that would be applied, and we're currently waiting for the outcome of a grant to state parks for $1 million. So it would allow us to do phase one of the renovation, which is converted to artificial turf.
But the $1,487,000, that's what we have right now.
Yes, that's what the city is committing to apply to this project, should we be funded. The project probably wouldn't start till fiscal year 18-19.
Next year.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Espinoza, but the total amount of the project is what, $2.5 million?
The total cost of the project and its completeness is $3.5 million. We're phasing it because we want to be able to add the turf so we can start increasing use. The second phase is lighting and other amenities there in the field.
And with the lighting, that includes the 3-point-something million? Or just the first phase?
The lighting's included in the 3.5 million, yes.
Mayor, I would just add that Anna has been working with County Board of Supervisor Caput's staff to explore other potential funding options. The county allocated to Supervisor Caput about $400,000 of discretionary park funding that he could use, ideally within his district. We thought that Sotomayor Fields would be a great opportunity for that. And so far those conversations have not been successful, but we continue to work with his office in hopes that those funds could be allocated towards this project or other projects within the Watsonville area.
What do we need to see if we can get the money? I mean, this is the district that he represents, so. But that's another story, right? I mean, but my question here, Anna, is how are we doing then in terms of the facilities rentals that we have? Are we doing good? Is it coming up or?
Our facility rentals are increasing, and I actually would like to invite our Assistant Director, Brad Blatchley, because he and our staff that work on this really track it very closely to see how we're progressing, what we can do to grow it as reasonably we can. So he's got good information to share with you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. As you know, for the last several years, staff have been working very hard at trying to increase the amount of rentals of the Parks and Community Services Department facilities and then increasing the revenue. This fiscal year, this morning I looked at the year-to-date budget report for our Parks and Community Services Department facilities, and this includes the car wash rental and some picnic areas. We're budgeted to bring in $52,000. Looking at the numbers this morning, year-to-date, we're at about 86.3. And then projecting out, looking at what's been booked, but what hasn't showed up yet in the year-to-date report, we project being at about 90,000 for this fiscal year. And then the field rental, the Ramsey Park soccer field, that revenue has increased by about $2,000 over last year. So we're seeing an upward trend.
What are the facilities that we rent for entertainment?
So we rent the Veterans Memorial Building, Ramsey Park Family Center, Callahan Park Cultural Center, the Museo Park Center, and then Dimension Marinovich, and then finally we also do rent the Civic Plaza Community Room, and those are indoor facilities.
And are all those, is alcohol allowed on all of those?
Not in all of them, no. Callahan Park does not allow alcohol.
Okay. And how has that been? Any problems?
Not that we're aware of. We have been working on, a couple of years ago, we removed the limits on alcohol that we had in place. And we've been monitoring that, and we have not received any complaints. And we do have security present when alcohol is present. And so far, we have not had any issues in the past 2 years.
we come a long way. I remember in '85 when I first came here, and I was just so surprised when you would go to the park, and they would have parties there with quinceañeras, and it was just like packs of beer. And it was sad because, the kids were playing and the parents were all drunk. And we stopped that, I remember, because that was awful.
Yeah.
And so we come a long way for that. I'm glad to hear this, that we haven't had no problems, no police reports on any of that stuff.
Not to our knowledge, no. No.
Thank you very much for that. I want to also, I mentioned earlier that see if we can have, in the whole plan, I know that we talk about strategic plan, we talk about goals, but I want to also talk about our vision, where we're heading. Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, as we discussed earlier, and I discussed with Mr. Huffaker, I think it's important, where we have come in the last several years is important to note, but I think it's important for you all to kind of see our vision as a staff where we're going so that you all can steer us the right way to make sure we're going down the path you all want us to go. So we'll be working on a vision statement to bring to council with the next budget revision from you all here at the end of the month.
Good, thank you. Yeah, most of the other questions that I have, I think they've been answered. Again, since we have another period to talk, that I can bring some of my other issues that I have, so small questions. Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Hernandez, any questions? No. Good. Okay, so this one is, any comments, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, and we have done the city council questions. So we need an appropriate motion for, or no, yes? No, it says over here, appropriate motion. Okay, it's not needed. Okay, so the motion is for everybody to go home. All right? Thank you very much. No, we haven't finished yet, but we wanted to thank you. Have other questions, Ms. Garcia?
Oh, no, it's just in terms of future agenda.
Oh, yeah, okay, so we're not there yet. But we are finished on this one, so our staff can go home if they would like to go home. If they like to stay, well, you're always welcome to stay. Thank
It's so
you.
exciting to see all come out tonight. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's really good. It's good to see you. And remember, we know, because it's very important for what we heard earlier, Okay, moving along then to, we took care of B already, so any future items, request to schedule future items. Ms. Garcia?
I too want to thank Mayor Rios for signing the Mayor's National Climate Action Agenda. Tonight, on their consent agenda, the Santa Cruz City Council will be approving a resolution for the city to support the Paris Climate Agreement. I'd like Watsonville to have a similar resolution to support the mayor's signature.
Put it on. And I wanted to thank Mr. Hernandez for being part of that motion and that also the support of the Paris Agreement. So thank you very much he was instrumental in making it happen. So credit is towards credit. Thank you. Other items, Ms. Bilicic.
I'm waiting to see what we're doing about these wonderful little computers here. So that we can have that on the agenda or just fix them. Then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
I like them, it's like you're like a dummy, talking and nothing comes out, It feels
Then well, of course, the fire station, but I know you're going to get that on there, so that's good. Thank you.
Any other items? Yes.
I had mentioned the Vision 01. I know the county is having a presentation at Simpkins Swim Center. They're going to be having a zero vision presentation, I think in the end of this month, the 29th. But it's a good, presentation to go check out and kind of get the idea of what it's about.
Thank you. Mr. Hertz?
Yes, I'd like to see us have a little more information on solid waste and what the county is doing with the landfill and what we're going to do with our landfill, and particularly what's going to happen with food waste and yard waste and organic materials, how they're going to be handled regionally as well as through the city.
Mayor, Council, if I may, on the last item, let's wait till the end of summer because I know we're working through the county with discussions and what we're doing with recyclables and our landfill as far as solar energy and everything else. So if we can wait till after summer, that'd be wonderful.
Well, certainly, I just don't want the county to move forward without us, and then we would be subject to whatever they decided, and that might not be in our best interest.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Agreed.
Okay, Mr. Dutra?
Three things. One is the graffiti, if we can have the police department come back to us. I know I asked this like the last couple of meetings. You know, what we're going to do. Well, summer's out, so far so good. And then if we can get something on the homelessness issue, I know that we want to work on something. We're putting something together, right? So maybe I think that would be great for the public to know exactly what we're doing. And then the final thing was, I forgot.
Okay. Maybe you remember it.
So Mayor, Council, if I may, Mr. Dutra, on your first item on the graffiti, I believe that the police chief emailed all the council members here about a month and a half ago what they're working on. There is a reluctancy to put it out there. That way people don't know how to go around the systems that they're trying to create. So it is through email that they did send it to you. On the second item, myself and Mayor Rios, along with the other city managers and other mayors, will be getting together in the next few months discussing the homeless issue and figuring out how the cities can start working together because the homeless task force is having some issues, and so we're trying to work through that.
Well, if you guys put together a committee or something that people like myself can sit on, I'd love to be part of it. I remember the last thing. We adopted all the new speed limit increases, so I just wanted to see if what the report is back, maybe about 6 months. Have we? It's 6 months out, whenever that was, from 6 months from then to see if we've had any increase of actually fining people and have accidents gone down, that kind of stuff.
Mayor, Council, if I may, Mr. Dutra, I believe it's only been 30 days now because we had to order signs, so the signs have only been up 30 days. They have started ticketing quite a bit on Airport Boulevard and other areas, so we can come back to you in a handful of months and let you know how it's going, but I know they have started ticketing.
Yeah, like maybe 6 months from then, you know, because we can show the public that it's actually working, you know.
I had asked and see if we can follow about having a joint council member meetings of the cities, remember? Capitola, Santa Cruz, Scott Valley, all of us together here in Watsonville in the Melo Center and invite, you know, people to speak and we can pick on, you know, like housing, you know, we can pick the issues. I talked with some of the council members in Santa Cruz. We did it before, and I think it would be a good effort to bring everybody together. I think it would be great to hear what everybody's doing about housing and other issues that we can think. So we can follow up on that. And lastly, I think we forgot to mention in some work that Mr. Dutra did in the Transit Center, and it's going to be a ribbon cutting. It's going to be a ribbon cutting at the next council meeting. It's going to be at noon. Okay, so we all are invited.
Yeah, please show up. That's
yes.
we just built we painted the building. We've been done a lot of we added new lighting, new cameras, and inside we've done a new center for a ticket center. So we actually have a live person for the first time, I don't know if ever, but in a long time, in the Watsonville station that will be bilingual and be able to speak to our riders.
This is the 27th.
It's right before the next meeting.
Yeah, I think this is the second time. First we had McDonald's.
Yeah, then McDonald's went, yeah.
Anyway, so McDonald's gave us not only McDonald's, but also transportation directions, where to go to next. Okay, with that, brings us to a conclusion. Ain't you sad? All right, thank you very much.
This is a lot earlier than I
All
thought it was
right,
gonna end.
good night, everybody.
Good work.
There's still cookies.